What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 11 nanoseconds Chapter 276 Persuasion on the training ground. Su Ming sent Garp and Yamato away. He turned around and kicked Ace speechlessly, who was still lying on the ground. Get up, aren't you ashamed? Look, I've been fighting for a long time, am I as good as you? Ace. You hit me, of course you're fine. Ace sat up angrily, like an angry young wife. Su Ming couldn't help but roll his eyes. Come with me, don't embarrass me here. After Su Ming finished speaking, he turned around and walked out of the training ground without caring whether Ace followed him or not. Marine Ford, a secluded and deserted seaside. Su Ming leaned comfortably on the beach lounge chair, holding a freshly opened coconut in his hand. Ace followed suit and sat down as well. The midday sun shining on my body just makes my nerves relax. Seeing that Su Ming didn't speak, Ace didn't take the initiative to speak either. Both of them were enjoying the rare quiet time. Smelly boy, why don't you want to join the Marine? Su Ming drank a sip of coconut juice and asked casually, you should know that this is not only my arrangement, but also the wish of the old man. Ace was silent for a moment and then sighed, there are many reasons. For example, I don't like the constraints of the Marine, I prefer a free life. Su Ming glanced at Ace and said, if you keep talking nonsense to me, will I slap your letter? With me and the old man here, how can you not be free in the Marine? Ace. It's not just this reason, although I don't want to admit it, I have that guy's blood in me after all. Su Ming curled his lips and said, the Summit War is over, and the Pirates King's bloodline has been completely cut off. No one can change what I said. You're just a guy who happens to look like the Pirates King's son Ace and has the same name as him. That's right. Ace was speechless for a moment. Do you want to listen to what you were saying? Advertisement. Su Ming shrugged. Don't worry about what I say, it works anyway. He turned to look at Ace and continued to ask, are there any other reasons? Ace sat up silently and looked at the seemingly calm sea in front of him with confusion in his eyes. My father died at the hands of the Marines, uncle. I really can't convince myself to join the Marines. There are still so many companions and family members in the Whitebeard Pirates. If they knew first joined the Marine, they would never forgive me. Ace finally spoke out his true thoughts. Su Ming had expected this. Whitebeard also holds a very important place in Ace's heart. This little guy, whose soul has not been tortured by the rules of society, is unable to switch camps seamlessly. Su Ming looked at Ace calmly and sat up silently. I said, this matter is not for you to decide. The struggle between Marines and pirates has never been simply a struggle between good and evil, but a confrontation of positions. Ace lowered his head and remained silent. Whitebeard had also expressed some of what Su Ming said. At first, Ace didn't understand the meaning of the words. But now, he vaguely understood some of its true meanings. Good and evil are not enough reasons to fight, but the confrontation of positions and fighting are inevitable. Su Ming continued. Pirates are not all evil, and Marines are not all just. But even if a righteous Marine encounters kind-hearted pirates, he must draw his sword. This is a principle. Different standpoints lead to different perspectives on things. Su Ming said, glancing at Ace with his peripheral vision, in my opinion, you are not a pirate. If it was Luffy sitting here today, I would never persuade him to join the Marines. He stood firm and chose the pirates from the beginning. But you, when you first went out to sea, were just a child who didn't want to live in the shadow of your parents. You wanted to prove yourself, and you chose pirates simply because it was more convenient. I later joined the Whitebeard Pirates and didn't want to leave because the Whitebeard Pirates made me feel like home, not because of any stance. Whether you admit it or not, the Whitebeard Pirates are doomed to disband. Without Whitebeard's protection, all crew members will have to find other ways to work. Do you think that given Whitebeard's personality, he would want to see you join other pirate groups and burn, kill and loot like other pirates? Su Ming paused. Advertisement, I remember you said that your dream was to help Whitebeard become the king of pirates. Now that this dream is doomed to fail, isn't it time for you to have a new goal? Different positions lead to completely different views of the world. Before this, shouldn't you understand the whole picture of the world so that you can make the most correct choice in your heart? If you have your own worldview and still feel that you want to be a pirate, I won't stop you. Garp, who had been secretly following Su Ming and Ace, couldn't help but feel moved after hearing what Su Ming said. This kid is still so good at brainwashing. Although Garp knew that Su Ming was making excuses, he still couldn't help but wonder if he should change his perspective and understand the world better. Ace lowered his head, and although he remained silent, there was a hint of struggle in his eyes. Su Ming did not continue talking. He looked back at the sea surface where waves were constantly rising. After a long moment, Ace took a deep breath and slowly raised his head. If I still want to be a pirate, you really won't stop me? Su Ming smiled slightly. Never stop it. Ace stood up and turned to walk towards the headquarters. Su Ming showed a smile on his face, lay back in his chair and drank some coconut juice comfortably. Stinky old man, the show is over, why don't you come out? Even Garp could not hide Su Ming's observation hockey, so Garp was not surprised. He walked to the lounge chair where Ace had just sat down directly, and basked in the sun like Su Ming. You little brat, I really let you trick Ace into joining the Marine. Su Ming rolled his eyes and said dissatisfiedly, stinky old man, what are you talking about? Do you think I am fooling you? I am just presenting facts and reasoning. If I hadn't been brought to the headquarters by a stinky old man like you, I might have become an outstanding educator. Garp. Haha, if Lousy hadn't found you, you might be developing a cult somewhere and being hunted by the world government. How could you be the five elders? Su Ming rolled his eyes at Garp but stopped arguing. He raised his hand and pulled the parasol down to cover his face, then turned off the microphone and went to sleep. However, Garp, who was lying on the side, did not have Su Ming's thoughts and could not help but ask his concerns. What if that kid still wants to be a pirate? Under the umbrella, Su Ming lazily said, when he wants to be a pirate, whether there are still pirates on the sea will be another matter. Garp's pupils shrank. Then, as if he thought of something, he looked at Su Ming who had fallen asleep, with a hint of anticipation and a smile in his eyes. Chapter 277 Recommendation Marshal. With Garp around, there would naturally be no obstacles for Ace to join Marine. His long-cherished wish has finally come true, and Garp is so excited that he even wants to set up a few tables in the headquarters. Fortunately, Sengoku reminded him that Ace in the outside world should be a dead man, so he gave up the idea in disappointment. Despite this, the old man could not suppress his excitement. As an insider, Su Ming naturally became the person Garp confided in. Su Ming's office. Su Ming was wearing an eye mask and leaning lazily in the chair. Across from him, IN was holding a document and looking at Su Ming with helplessness on his face. Senior Su Ming, you haven't come to the office for a year. Isn't it time for you to make decisions on some important matters yourself? After being transferred to work under Su Ming for several years, Ain no longer felt the nervousness he had when facing Su Ming. She also gradually transformed from an ignorant little girl into an intellectual beauty. Su Ming pulled up his blindfold and looked at Ain. What Ain was wearing was not the traditional Marine uniform, but a secretary outfit that he had tailored himself, with a tight skirt and black stockings, and only a Marine cloak draped over his shoulders to show his status. As if to fit his identity, Ian, who had no vision problems, still wore a pair of glasses with thin gold rims. The aura she exudes in her every move is that of a shrewd and capable career woman. Even though Su Ming was used to seeing beautiful women, he couldn't help but be dazzled when he saw Ain. Well, little Ain has grown up. I don't trust you completely. The unconditional trust between seniors and juniors. Come on, I believe you can do it. In was speechless. Senior Su Ming, please don't use this excuse to evade me. Besides, there are some things that I cannot decide, such as the election of Admiral Akainu and Admiral Aokiji for the position of Marine Marshal. You also need to vote. I cannot decide for you. Su Ming stretched and sat up straight. Those two guys haven't decided who's better yet? Really, it's just a matter of Sengoku's words, but you have to make it so complicated? In pushed the frame with his slender jade fingers. According to past tradition, most Marine Marshals are recommended by the previous Marine Marshal. But now because of your presence, Marshal Sengoku can't make the decision on this matter. After all, without your support, it doesn't matter who takes the position of Marine Marshal. Listening to Ain's rational analysis, Su Ming couldn't help but applaud. Little Ain is really getting better and better. He saw through the truth of the matter at a glance. Advertisement. Well, if that's the case, I really have to show up. But who should I support? This kind of thing cannot be taken lightly. Su Ming's eyes turned. He stood up from the chair and walked to Ain, took Ain's soft and boneless little hand, and put a coin in Ain's hand. Then he dragged Ian's hand and threw him upwards. Ding! The coin falls to the floor, tails facing up. Su Ming was overjoyed. Okay, it's decided. Support Akainu. Ion. So the two words, cautious, I just mentioned are just to make up the word count, right? You decide on the selection of Marine Marshal by flipping a coin? Why don't you just let them fight and whoever wins will be the winner? Ian took a deep breath and the two weapons on his chest rose and fell. Admiral Lei Ming, 5 elders, Senior Su Ming, I solemnly remind you that you are deciding the Marine Marshal, not buying vegetables in the market. Su Ming touched his chin. I am serious. I chose Akainu. This is a well thought out decision. Ian was helpless. What if the coin landed on the front? Su Ming chuckled. Then I'll turn the coin over. Ion. Having said that, Ian suddenly felt that he didn't know what else to say. Okay, then I'll tell Marshal Sengoku the news. Just as Ain was about to push the door open, a burst of hearty laughter suddenly reached their ears. Haha, little brat, I'm here, hurry up and bring out all the delicious and fun things. This time when you came back from Wano-kuni, you didn't bring me any gifts. Garp's noise attack has already begun before anyone even enters the door. Ian was tactful enough to open the door for Garp. Hey, little In is here too. He's grown up again. Su Ming is so lucky. Little In, this kid is rarely in our headquarters recently, you must seize the opportunity, I am absolutely optimistic about you. Garp's words made Ian, who was pretending to be serious, blush. Su Ming rolled his eyes and drummed his fingers on the table. Advertisement, hey, you old B*****************. D. Stay away from Lil Ain. Your vile aura is already visible to the naked eye. You have led Lil Ain astray, I will never forgive you. Senior Garp, I still have work to do, please talk to Admiral Lei Ming first. With that, Ian ran out of the office with the documents in his arms, causing Garp to laugh again. Ha ha ha, this little girl. Turning to look at the lazy Su Ming, Garp said unhappily, how can girls like you so much? Back then, I was a young talent in the Marine Corps, but how come I couldn't even catch up with Xiaohe? Su Ming rolled his eyes, took out an exquisite cup that looked like it was carved from white jade from the drawer, poured a cup of coffee for Garp, and handed it to Garp. But he spoke ruthlessly. Chief of Staff, he didn't choose you, which proves that her eyesight is normal. What's so strange about that? Garp glared at Su Ming, took the exquisite cup from Su Ming and looked at it for a while. This cup looks very special. He tilted his head back and took a big sip of coffee. You are such a short-sighted brat. What were you and Little Aim talking about just now? Why did I seem to hear Akainu and Aokiji? Something about them? Garp asked curiously. Su Ming shrugged. It's nothing big, just electing Akainu as Marine Marshal. Garp was startled and stood up again. You support Akainu? Stinky boy. Why didn't you discuss such an important matter? Su Ming holds a crucial vote in deciding who will become the Marine Marshal. As for the Marine Marshal, it involves the future of the Marine Marshal. Seeing Garp's excitement, Su Ming said slowly, calm down, old man. As long as I'm here, does it matter who becomes the Marine Marshal? Garp was stunned for a moment, then thought about it carefully and it seemed to be true. No matter whether Aokiji or Akainu takes the position of Marine Marshal, they have to get Su Ming's approval before doing anything. Without Su Ming's nod, even Sengoku would have difficulty mobilizing the warships. Thinking of this, Garp calmed down. Humph, brat, no wonder you haven't taken this matter seriously. Su Ming chuckled. Okay. On the table, the Den Den Mushi suddenly rang. Hello, Su Ming, it's me, Zephyr. I got a few historical texts. Chapter 278 Gilded, Gift. Historical text. Su Ming, who was originally sitting on a chair, had a gleam of light in his eyes and sat up straighter unconsciously. When I came back from Wano-kuni, I just wanted to try to ask Zephyr to help me find some historical texts. I didn't expect Zephyr to be so efficient. In just 1 month, I have reaped the rewards. On the other end of the phone, Zephyr saw that Su Ming had not said anything for a long time, and a smug look appeared on his face. Well, kid, my new Marine has pretty good execution skills, right? Zephyr is like a child showing off his favorite toy. Su Ming calmed down and said with a smile, it is indeed a bit unexpected. Kaido and Auntie have been collecting historical texts intentionally or unintentionally. They only have a few pieces in their hands over the years. I thought this thing would be hard to find. Zephyr chuckled. It's true that it's hard to find, but you gave me enough money. Now the number of new Marines under my command is no less than that of the headquarters. I have sent all of them out for your sake. If I don't get anything, how can I meet you again in the future? On the side, Garp, who had been silent, was also shocked when he heard Zephyr say that the new Marine's strength was already comparable to that of the naval headquarters. Garp snatched the Den Den Mushi away and said, Zephyr, are you serious? Your troops are no less powerful than the headquarters? Zephyr's smile widened when he heard Garp's familiar voice and the eager tone. Hey, Garp, you're at the brat's place too. Well, I am now the Grand Marshal of the new Marine. How are you doing in the headquarters? Are you still the Vice Admiral? Tisk tisk tisk. Garp's face suddenly darkened, and veins on his forehead throbbed. Although I don't like a very high position that would affect my leisure time. But facing Zephyr's close taunting, Garp was still very angry. This old guy was clearly mocking me for my poor performance in recent years. Zephyr, what are you doing pretending in front of me, old man? If it weren't for the funding from that brat Su Ming, your new Marine would be a third-rate organization at best. Just wait, I'm going to row into the new world and challenge you to a duel. However, Garp's shouting made Zephyr on the other end of the Den Den Mushi laugh even more happily. Ha ha ha, Garp, whatever you say, I'm the Marshal now. If you don't agree, why don't you push Sengoku down and take his place yourself? On the side, Su Ming saw two old men arguing like children and couldn't help but smile bitterly and pulled Garp aside. Alright, calm down, I want to have a chat with old Zephyr. Garp was forced onto the chair by Su Ming, his chest still heaving violently. Yes, you little brat, help me scold him and deduct his military funds. Su Ming was quite helpless towards these two old men for a while. Picking up the Den Den Mushi, Su Ming coughed lightly. Senior Zephyr, is the historical text in your hands now? Advertisement. Hearing that it was Su Ming who was speaking, Zephyr put away his playful attitude and said seriously, well, there are 4 pieces of historical texts in total, all in my hands. This thing involves too many things, and I didn't dare let too many people get involved. Are you coming here in person? The historical text is something that the world government has been closely monitoring, so naturally the fewer people who know about it, the better. Su Ming frowned slightly. If you want to read the historical text, it would be best to go there yourself. But I just came back from Wano-kuni, and I might have already noticed something. If we go to Zephyr again now, it is hard to guarantee that we will not irritate Im's nerves and start a war directly. Su Ming didn't want to start a war rashly before figuring out what the final trump card of Yimu and Celestial Dragons was. Zephyr also seemed to understand Su Ming's difficulties. How about I send someone to deliver the things to you? Su Ming rejected it outright. No, your current movements must also be under Yimu's surveillance. We need to find a suitable reason, and then find someone who has not been noticed by those old guys. Although there were only 2 conditions, the 3 of them were unable to find a suitable candidate for a while. After a while, Zephyr suddenly spoke. If you want a reason, I can give you one. I have a base with a large stockpile of explosive rock. Because it is a very dangerous thing, I have kept it sealed away. I can reveal this news and hide the historical text on the island at the same time. When you send someone to take the rubbings away, I will detonate the explosive rock and blow up the historical text along with it, without anyone noticing. Su Ming thought for a moment and nodded. this method is acceptable. On the sofa, Garp hugged his shoulders and asked angrily, who to send, Kizaru or Aokiji? For a mission that required some slacking off, the three of them subconsciously excluded Akainu. In the past, Su Ming would definitely vote for Kizaru for such a task. After all, this wretched man will really do the job as long as you pay him. But this time, the mission content is different, and just at that moment, Su Ming thought of a better candidate. A smile appeared on Su Ming's lips. What do you think of Ace? Garp, who was sitting on the sofa, was visibly stunned. Even Zephyr on the other end of the Denden Mushi was silent for a moment. But soon, Garp reacted. You want to push Ace to the position of Admiral, little brat? Advertisement right now Aokiji and Akainu are competing for the position of Marshal. No matter who gets promoted, the position of Admiral will always be vacant. Su Ming wants to gild Ace. Su Ming smiled faintly. Ace's strength is not enough to serve as Admiral. But it doesn't matter. After we return from this mission, I'll find a few people to train this kid around the clock. I have even found his lieutenant for him, so let Yamato come. Garp's face suddenly lit up with joy. Okay, great. You little brat, it turns out that you're the one who has to rely on connections. If you have nothing else to do, just arrange some missions for these two little guys. In less than 2 years, I'll be able to have great-grandchildren. Ha 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 ha. Su Ming rolled his eyes. People are indeed the same as they age. Su Ming knocked on the table, interrupting Garp's fantasy. Okay, it's settled. Garp was still not satisfied. You better pay attention to Ace's affairs, little brat. Su Ming rolled his eyes again. Okay, got it, old man. Take your gift and leave now. Don't say I didn't bring you a gift from Wano-kuni. When Garp heard about the gift, he was immediately distracted. Gift? Where is it? Haha, you are so thoughtful. Su Ming curled his lips. Well, isn't it in your hand? Garp looked at the coffee in his hand. Wano-kuni has started growing coffee beans? Su Ming. I'm talking about the cup. Garp looked carefully at the cup in his hand that looked like white jade, and then he realized that this thing was indeed a little different. Garp drank the coffee in the cup and then held the cup up to the sunlight. Stinky boy, what the hell is this? Su Ming shrugged. Ivory. Garp. Ivory? Damn, boy, you're not going to pull out the elephant's tusk? Su Ming. You think too much. This was given to me by a brave young man named Jack. Don't worry, it was absolutely voluntary, and it was definitely not interrupted by his boss because he provoked me. Chapter 279 Mission Naval Headquarters Training Ground. Flame Mirror. Big Mouth True God Form. Thundering 8 trigrams. On the training ground, Ace and Yamato have both changed into marine uniforms. With nothing to do, the two of them are learning from each other to improve their strength. Ace is slightly stronger than Yamato, but relying on his strong body, it is not easy to defeat Yamato easily. Every time the two of them wanted to determine the winner, it would take at least a whole day. Outside the training ground, a marine soldier passed by. Looking at the flickering flames in the training ground, he couldn't help but shrink his neck and walked away. As expected, the people brought back by Admiral Liming are all monsters. I'm afraid I will never have such strength in my lifetime. The soldier muttered something, looking a little lonely, and turned away. In the training ground, Ace and Yamato exchanged a move, then stopped in tacit understanding. Yamato walked aside and handed Ace a towel and a bottle of water. Ace didn't hesitate and took the water and drank it in 2 gulps. The two seemed to have formed a tacit understanding. Not far away, Su Ming hugged his shoulders and looked at the two of them with interest, with a faint smile on his lips. This brat, it seems that old man Garp's wish of having a great-grandson will be realized soon. Seeing that the two had not noticed him yet, Su Ming coughed twice to alert them of his presence. Ace and Yamato, who were fine at first, were suddenly startled. Su Ming walked out with a smile on his face. I hope I didn't disturb you. Adult Su Ming. Yamato's face flushed slightly, not sure if it was because of the training he had just done or for some other reason. Ace, on the other hand, didn't show any discomfort. Uncle. Su Ming looked at Ace and asked with a smile. Not bad, your strength has improved rapidly during this period. Are you used to staying in the headquarters? How does it feel compared to before? Ace was stunned, and said with a guilty conscience. That's about right. Su Ming raised his eyebrows and looked at Ace with a smile. Really? Ace. Although he didn't want to say it, Ace had to admit in his heart that being at the naval headquarters was much more comfortable than when he was in the Whitebeard Pirates. Advertisement at Marineford, Ace can have whatever he wants. Needless to say, there is food and drink available, with top marine chefs and nutritionists serving you 24 hours a day. As for the place to live, Su Ming just threw a bunch of keys to me and let me choose one. As for leisure time entertainment, there is an entertainment street built by Su Ming not far from Marineford. In just a few days, Yamato was completely conquered by the environment here. While eating, he said several times that he should have come here to be a marine earlier. If it weren't for Whitebeard, Ace would have to say it smells great. Seeing that Ace was unwilling to admit it, Su Ming smiled and didn't care too much. Okay, I came to see you for something serious this time. Boy, take your men and prepare to go to the New World. New World? Ace was stunned. I had just settled down in the Marine, and I thought Su Ming would not let me go out to sea casually during this period of time, so as to prevent me from running away. I didn't expect that I would be able to lead the team to the New World so easily. That's pirates' territory. Uncle, you are so reassuring. Aren't you afraid that I will never come back? If I enter the new world and don't want to come back, Marine can't do anything about it. Ace looked at Su Ming and teased. Su Ming heard this and smiled indifferently. If you want to leave, go ahead. Why would I stop you? But are you willing to give up the conditions now? There's no such good food treatment at sea. There aren't so many entertainment facilities. Not to mention giving you such a big training ground. Ace turned his head and said stubbornly, Humph, these things can't keep me. Yamato, who was a bit of a naive person, heard what Ace said and tugged at the corner of Ace's clothes in confusion. Ace, didn't you say yesterday that you liked the barbecue here and wanted to eat it every day? If we go to the sea, we won't be able to eat it. Yamato looked serious. Ace's face flushed red. I can live without barbecue. Then there is fried noodles, I won't eat it either. You're not going to eat the dumplings either? Yamato's eyes were filled with tears. Ace. Advertisement being sabotaged one after another by Yamato, with Su Ming watching from the side. Ace wished he could just find a hole in the ground to crawl into. I'll kidnap a chef when we run away. That's all right, right? Stop asking questions. After hearing what Ace said, Yamato nodded obediently. Su Ming, however, was not afraid of trouble and reminded, Ahem, let me remind you, the chef who cooked for you was transferred from the night bar by me. His strength is at least the elite vice admiral, so you need to bring more people to kidnap him. Ace. Uncle, I was wrong. Let's get down to business, I won't leave. Seeing that Ace had calmed down again, Su Ming nodded with satisfaction. Your mission this time is to lead the team to an island in New World and destroy the explosive rock. This island is currently under the influence of the new Marine Zephyr. You may not be familiar with the name Zephyr, he was your grandfather's comrade in arms and former admiral. To be honest, you are half my teacher. On the side, after hearing what Su Ming said, Ace was completely numb. Uncle, are you sure I'm the only one leading this mission? The former admiral has also formed a force. I really haven't offended you recently. There's no need for me to send you off like this, right? Yamato said seriously. The former Marine Admiral should be difficult to deal with. Lord Su Ming, can I call for some help from Onigashima? Su Ming was speechless. Why didn't I realize it before? This Yamato is a bit of a naive person. You're overthinking. You don't need to go on this mission if you can ask someone else to do it. Ace pouted. But this is not a task we can accomplish at all. Su Ming rolled his eyes at Ace. You are useless, how can I let you die? As expected, although your strength has increased a lot in the past few years outside, your brain has basically stopped developing. I've already told you that Zephyr is half my teacher and an old comrade of your grandfather's. Do you think he would touch you? What I just told you is just a superficial mission. Your real mission is the historical text hidden on the island. Make a copy of the historical text and hand it over to me. This is your real mission. And someone will pick you up on the island. Ace was curious. Who? Uncle, do you have spies in this new marine? Su Ming scratched his head. Zephyr will support you. To be precise, this force was built up by your uncle in my early years, but it is not convenient to expose it now. Ace. After a long moment, Ace took a deep breath. Uncle, can you tell me if there are any forces on the sea that you haven't infiltrated yet? Why are there your people everywhere? If I want to escape, I'll have to join another 4 Emperors group. Su Ming touched his nose and finally decided not to tell Ace that the remaining 3-4 Emperors groups were also related to him. After all, we still have to leave some thoughts for the children. Chapter 280 Ace. I'm not Ace Grand Line, Sabaody Archipelago. In a night bar, a young man wearing a red jacket and a straw hat sat at the bar and ate like crazy. This meat is delicious. Sugoi, this is delicious too. Nami, I want to buy 100 portions of this meat. At the side, the blonde girl with a proud figure was frowning. Luffy, shut up. Do you know how much money you've eaten in just a short while? Nami looked painful. Boss, this idiot hasn't touched these 2 dishes yet, can I return them? When he heard that the dishes had to be returned, Luffy, who was just eating, reacted immediately and quickly stuffed the 2 dishes that Nami pointed at, along with the plates, into his mouth. I've already finished eating, no need to return. Yes. Behind the counter, the boss with a mustache and a smile on his face was not slow at all, and he was tapping on the bill with a pen. After completing this order, I can pay in full for the private boat that I had previously set my eyes on. The boss secretly winked at his waiter. Several waiters understood what he meant and walked to the door silently, staring at Luffy and the others. This is a big order, and it will be troublesome if you run away without it. Luffy, who was still eating, was unaware of this. Just then, the door of the bar was pushed open again. Huh? The service in the bar is getting better and better. Is this an advance welcome? At the door, 2 figures were standing against the light, making it impossible to see their faces clearly. In front of the bar, Luffy held the barbecue in one hand and frowned at the figure at the door, feeling inexplicably familiar. Hearing the sound, everyone in the bar looked towards the person who came. As the figure approached, many people in the bar narrowed their pupils and subconsciously tensed their bodies. Marine? Why would a Marine come to Sabaody Archipelago? As the entrance to the New World, the night bartenders at Sabaody Archipelago are basically pirates who want to enter the New World. Before entering the New World, all pirates will stop at the night bar for a while to resupply. Over time, this night bar became the base for a group of pirates. Marine also keeps the default attitude towards this and rarely appears here. However, the sudden appearance of 2 Marines here made all the pirates curious. But it was just curiosity, and he was not worried that the Marine would do something to him. After all, this is a night bar. His sudden appearance at this moment made all the pirates in the bar feel nervous. Advertisement: it would be fine if it was just these two Marines who wanted to have a drink on a whim. I am afraid that the Marine has some plan against Sabo the Archipelago. Inside the bar, all the pirates stared at Ace Yamato and the other two. Ace smiled slightly at everyone's gaze, as if he didn't notice anything. He pulled up the brim of his hat to cover most of his face, walked to the bar, and pointed at Luffy. "Boss, give me two identical ones, just like him." The bar owner, who had a serious face just now, immediately put on a smile when he heard this. "Okay, please wait a moment, sir." At the bar, Ace picked up a glass of wine and raised his head with a smile, and Luffy and the others finally saw him clearly. Ace. Luffy's eyes widened in disbelief, and he didn't even notice the meat in his hand falling to the ground. Tears suddenly welled up from my eyes. Not caring about the grease on his hands, he rushed towards Ace. Ace was quick to act and pressed Luffy's face. "You got the wrong kid, my name is not Ace." Luffy. "Ace, what are you talking about? If not Ace, what else can you call me?" The stubborn Luffy didn't believe it and kept rushing forward. Ace smiled faintly. "You were talking about Ace, the son of the pirates King Roger, right? Look at me, first I'm a Marine." After hearing this, Luffy circled around Ace twice, then sat back in his chair with a dejected look on his face. "Really, sorry, I made a mistake." At the side, Nami, Zoro and others from the Straw Hat Pirates looked at Luffy speechlessly. This IQ is really hopeless. This is obviously Ace, but he can't admit it because there are so many people around. This guy actually took it seriously. "It's just a change of clothes, why are you so sure?" The bar owner ignored him and quickly made 2 more deluxe meal sets according to Luffy's menu and sent them to Ace and Yamato. Looking at the table full of delicious food, Ace and Yamato were salivating. "You're welcome." Yamato ignored her girlish image and took the meat and stuffed it into her mouth. Ace was not to be outdone and picked up the barbecue and started eating it. On the side, Zoro, Nami, and Sanji looked at this man eating in the same way as Luffy, and a frown appeared on their foreheads. "This guy looks just like them, and you still say you don't recognize him?" After having a full meal and a few drinks, the people who were eating like crazy leaned back in their chairs, looking very happy. Nami, who was sitting next to him, looked at Ace and seemed to want to say something but stopped herself several times. Advertisement: although I don't know why Luffy, the brother, became a Marine, but since he is a Marine, if he is willing to take a few people into the new world, it will definitely save a lot of trouble. Nami was still struggling over whether or not to speak. Ace suddenly yawned, turned around and looked at Yamato, who was stretching lazily, and said, "Yamato, let's go to the Fishman Island later. I heard that the newly appointed Mermaid Queen there has some relationship with Admiral Su Ming. Let's go and pay her a visit. We're just entering New World from the Fishman Island, get ready." Yamato scratched his head. "The Queen of the Mermaid Tribe? But wouldn't it be closer for me to go directly through the Red Line to the New World?" Ace. Ace looked at Yamato and his eye twitched. He seriously suspected that his uncle arranged Yamato to be his adjutant just to sabotage him. This girl is quite capable, but sometimes there is always something missing in her brain. First, I'm a Marine now, so if I want to go to New World, I don't have to go to the Fishman Island. But Luffy and the others obviously wanted to enter the New World but didn't know how to get there. Wasn't this a reminder to them? Now that the nominal Ace is dead, he can't possibly reveal his identity in public. Should I grab Luffy's shoulders and tell him to listen to me and I won't hurt you? Ace stood up, pulled out a gold-rimmed card with a night bar pattern on it and waved it in front of the boss, then threw down a bag of Baileys, picked up Yamato and turned to leave. The bar owner looked at Ace's leaving back. A trace of annoyance flashed in his eyes, but he still put away Bailey, shook his head and went to serve other customers. In front of the bar, Luffy pouted, looked at Ace's back as he left, and withdrew his gaze with a bit of loneliness. "Nami, do you think we should force our way through the Red Line?" Nami covered her head speechlessly. "Are you an idiot?" Ace reminded him so clearly, but this guy still didn't understand. "Luffy." Nami didn't bother to explain and pulled Luffy by the collar. "Forget it, Zoro, Sanji, let's go back to the ship." "Boss, please count the money." The bar owner rubbed his hands and smiled. "Sir, the total is 102 million Baileys. I'll round it off for you, so it'll be 100 million Baileys. S. Nami, who had just stood up and was about to pay, stood there in a daze. Looking at the bar owner with a kind smile, Nami forced a stiff smile. "Boss, can you please make this price a little cheaper?" First saw that Marine didn't spend that much. Did he make the wrong choice? The boss still smiled and waved the bill in his hand. "Don't worry, sir. There will be no mistakes in our account. The person just now is a top member of our bar. The food is free. What he just gave me was just a tip." The bar owner snapped his fingers, and Nami felt a shadow covering her head. Turning around, they saw a dozen burly men as strong as iron towers surrounding them. The bar manager still had a smiling face. "Dear guests, our store does not accept credit, so how do you think you can pay?" Chapter 281 Ace. It's great to have money. Behind the bar owner looked at Luffy and the others with a smile. The dozen or so sturdy men behind him clenched their fists and made crackling sounds, getting closer and closer. Wait a minute, don't do anything, we can discuss it." "We just didn't bring that many Baileys." Nami waved her hands and argued hurriedly. The bar owner was not angry. "It's okay, Guest, you can go and get the money by yourself, but your companion needs to stay here during this time. During this period, we can still guarantee the safety of your companions. Sitting on the chair, Luffy was drinking juice carelessly, like a spectator. It's okay, Nami, go get the money, I'll wait for you here. Nami. Shut up. Looking at Luffy's appearance, she suddenly began to doubt herself, wondering if her IQ was not normal, otherwise why would she choose such a captain at that time? Don't you know whether there is money on the ship? Since I paid for your meal, we don't have to go to New World and can consider packing up and going back home. I don't even have a Bailey in my pocket, why take the risk? Seeing that Luffy could not be relied upon, Nami quietly moved closer to Zoro and Sanji and winked at them. The two of them immediately understood and quietly adjusted their sitting positions. Run. Stop them, they're trying to get away with it. Zoro and Sanji led the way. Nami grabbed Luffy's collar and ran behind him. Robin also picked up Chopper and followed closely behind. A dozen burly men in black suits and armed with various weapons were chasing us madly. The Straw Hat guys didn't even dare to turn their heads. I ran back to the boat and pulled up the anchor, then I breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, that was a close call, I almost died. Zoro and Sanji were also lying on the deck, still feeling frightened as they recalled what had just happened. This is too much. A bar like this actually hired more than a dozen colonel-level thugs from the headquarters. Their armed color is almost catching up with me. Zoro suddenly remembered the boasting he had made in front of Hawkeye when he first entered the Grand Line. From today on, I won't lose to anyone again. Thinking about what happened today, my face suddenly blushed. This is just the entrance to the New World. When we really get to the New World, I wonder how many powerful people there will be. Sanji, who was also lying on the side, seemed to see through Zoro's thoughts and teased. Green Algae Head, you are not afraid, are you? If you are afraid, you can shout during the battle, I want to live. For the sake of our friendship, I will save you. Zoro blared back at him when he heard that. You stinky cook, say another word? You ran much faster than me just now. Seeing that the two were about to fight again, Nami and Robin looked at each other. Advertisement Robin gave an approving smile. Nami walked silently behind the two. You two, be quiet. With one punch, the two people who were arguing fiercely were knocked into the ground. The boat suddenly became quiet. Luffy came over with a confused look on his face. Nami, what were we running for? Yes, Captain Luffy, come here, I'll give you a buff. After a moment, on the deck, the Straw Hat Pirates sat together. Zoro and Sanji each had a red meat bump on their heads. Luffy's face was bruised and swollen, with shoe marks on it. With the addition of shoe prints, Luffy looked somewhat similar to a certain leader of the Revolutionary Army. Nami hugged her shoulders and calmed down a little. Okay, let's get down to business. Our goal is to enter the New World. But the first half of the Grand Line and New World are separated by the Red Line. From what I have learned so far, there are only two ways to enter the New World. First, abandon the ship, cross the Red Line on foot, and rebuild the ship once you enter the New World. Nami had just finished speaking when Luffy, who was beaten into a pig's head, jumped out first. No, Thousand Sunny is also our partner. I will never abandon him for such a reason. On the side, Zoro held the knife and looked at the calm sea. I agree with Luffy's decision this time. I don't agree with abandoning Thousand Sunny. Frankie. The ship is still there, Sanji, agreed. Robin. Allah, I don't want to change boats anymore. Chopper. Usopp. Nami shrugged, having expected this. Well, actually I don't agree with abandoning Thousand Sunny either. So we only have one way left. Enter the New World through the Fishman Island 10,000 meters below the Red Line. Nami looked at everyone and suddenly stopped talking. This route is 10,000 meters below the sea level and must pass through the Fishman Island. Ordinary pirates will definitely not be able to reach it. He changed the subject and turned to look at Luffy. Fortunately, our stupid captain is still of some use. The new queen of the Fishman Island is related to Luffy's uncle, Admiral Thunder. I don't think she will make things difficult for us. Advertisement, Luffy, you'll be so sweet when the time comes, just like you were on Nine Snake Island before, don't cause any more trouble for me. Nami is really afraid of Luffy's ability to cause trouble. If you want to survive in the Straw Hat Pirates, the first and foremost thing is to have a strong life. However, when they looked at Luffy, they saw this guy sitting aside picking his nose, looking as if he understood something but not quite. Nami covered her face speechlessly. Forget it, Zoro, Sanji, you guys just keep an eye on him when the time comes, and try not to let him talk. The ocean is 10,000 meters deep. If we anger this queen, we will really be dead. At the same time, at the night bar where Luffy had just run away from paying the bill, Ace and Yamato returned. When the bar owner saw Ace again, he naturally drove all the other customers out and closed the business. Ace leaned against the bar, shaking the glass in his hand and said with a smile, just put the meal money of that brat on my account, so there is no need to chase him. Hearing this, the bar manager hesitated. He saw Ace's ID at the bar just now when Ace left. The black card with gold edges may look inconspicuous, but it grants top-level privileges in the night bar. Except for senior managers, other members need to obey orders. But the dignity of the night bar cannot be challenged. You can ignore the mere 100 million Baileys in the night bar, but if someone eats a free meal, it is a challenge to the night. This kind of responsibility is not something a manager can shoulder. According to past practice, the group of pirates just now would definitely be thrown into the sea to feed the fish. The bar manager thought about it, then looked at Ace and asked tentatively, "Sir, I wonder if you are." Ace glared at the manager in dissatisfaction. "Five elder Su Ming, you know, I call him uncle." The bar manager was stunned for a few seconds, then reacted and quickly put on a more humble attitude. "Please forgive me, sir. I don't know if you and the boss are." Ace waved his hand to interrupt the manager. "Okay, let's withdraw those guys' pursuit. Besides, my warship is at the port. Please help me with the coding. I need to enter the new world. How long will it take?" The manager chuckled. "Others would need at least 3 days, but with your status, I will call all the coding technicians in the Sabodi archipelago here right now. 2 hours will be enough." Even though Ace had already enjoyed himself at the headquarters for a while, he couldn't help but twitch his eyes when he heard the bar manager's words. "There's no need to clear out the entire island, right? Wouldn't that be too expensive?" The bar manager said indifferently, "Don't worry, sir, it won't cost much, just a few 100 million Baileys. But most of these platers won't charge. They want coupons for our rare drinks more than Baileys. As long as we spread the word about this opportunity, the shipbuilders on the island will definitely fight for it." After listening to the explanation of the bar manager, Ace looked at the red wine in his hand again and sighed in his heart. It's so G good to be rich. Chapter 282 The Fishman Island, Queen Shirahoshi. On the sea, the entire hull of Thousand Sunny was wrapped in a layer of transparent bubbles. Luffy lay on the ground, poking the bubbles curiously. "Nami, this is the coating? Will this layer of bubbles burst once it enters the water?" "We'll be dead then," Luffy asked with some concern. Not far away, Nami measured the wind direction and said nonchalantly, "Don't worry about it. As long as you don't cause any trouble, the coating won't break. Although the coating looks very thin, it is actually quite tough and has a certain degree of penetration. This coating is enough for us to dive to 10,000 meters below the ocean surface. I hope the people on Mermaid Island are easy to talk to." Nami sighed, looked up, and waved to Zoro and Sanji who were untying the sails. Luffy jumped up excitedly. "Friends, set sail." The coating that was originally tightly attached to the hull began to expand continuously. In the blink of an eye, a huge bubble completely enveloped Thousand Sunny. Thousand Sunny dived rapidly. The Straw Hat Pirates looked at the scene outside through the coating and were all excited. Sugoi, is this the deep sea? It's the first time I see it, so interesting." As a landlubber who ate the devil fruit, this scene was definitely a rare sight for Luffy. Nami and Robin were also observing everything around them with great interest. Sanji, on the other hand, had an expectant look on his face, twisting his body constantly. The Fishman Island, I can finally see the legendary mermaids. Hey, Green Algae Head, do you think mermaids are beautiful, just like the legend says? Beside the railing, Zoro crossed his arms and glanced at Sanji with disdain. There are also legends that mermaids eat people. Be careful not to be boiled into soup, you stinky cook. Sanji, who was in a good mood just now, was suddenly furious. Green Algae Head, are you looking for trouble? If the mermaid is really beautiful, Lousy would be willing to use her ribs to make soup, and she doesn't need you to save her. Boom. What's going on? The Thousand Sunny's hull suddenly shook violently. Everyone on the boat was jolted to sit on the deck. Advertisement. Everyone stood up and ran to the fence to look outside. This. Sanji's eyes widened and his body trembled unconsciously. The timid trio of Usopp, Chopper, and Nami even hugged each other. Luffy looked excited. Big octopus. Several huge octopus tentacles stretched out from the dark seabed and were now entangling Thousand Sunny. No matter how Thousand Sunny drove, it could not break free. Zoro jumped onto the railing, his eyes sharpened, and his hands rested on the hilt of his knife. We can only cut off this tentacle. Before Zoro could take action, several figures suddenly appeared on the seabed and quickly approached Thousand Sunny. In the blink of an eye, figures arrived outside Thousand Sunny, and everyone could see the appearance of several figures clearly. A fishman with a head that looked like a shark and holding a steel fork was followed by several young fishmen who were looking at the Straw Hat people vigilantly. Outsider, this is the Merman Principality territory recognized by 5 elders Su Ming. If you want to enter the Merman Principality, you need to show your ID. The fishman with a shark head pointed the steel fork at everyone, looking very imposing. The Straw Hat guys were all confused. Mermaid Principality? Isn't it Mermaid Island? Robin pushed his glasses, a little puzzled. The leading shark man explained in a cold voice. In the past, the world government did not recognize the legal status of the mermaids, and naturally did not agree to the mermaids establishing a principality. However, since Lord Su Ming came to power, Queen Shirahoshi negotiated with Lord Su Ming and fought for the treatment we deserve for our fishmen. The Mermaid Island and the surrounding waters are now considered the territories of the mermaids. Outsiders who want to enter must show their credentials, otherwise they will be treated as intruders. The Straw Hat guys looked at each other. Document? I've never heard of needing this before? Nami walked forward and looked at the leader, that handsome fishman brother. We really don't know about this. Is there any other way to enter the Fishman Island besides this certificate? Nami behaves in a charming manner, subtly showing off her strengths. Sanji, who was standing by, had a nosebleed. However, the leader of the group, the fishman, simply glanced at them with contempt and then looked away. Humph, you don't even have pretty fins, ugly girl. Hole. Explain yourself to me, who do you say is the ugly girl? Nami lost her composure immediately after being called an ugly girl, and instantly forgot what she had told everyone to stay calm. Chopper hurriedly pulled Nami back, otherwise even if there were no bubbles, Nami would probably break through the coating and fight the fishman in front of him to the death. Robin, who had been standing aside, sighed and walked forward, first nodding respectfully at the fishman. I'm sorry, my friend is a little emotional. We really don't know about this. We just don't know if there is any other legal way to enter the Fishman Island except with a permit. Looking at the polite Robin, the shark man snorted and said coldly, if you don't have an ID, you can be a member of the night bar. Advertisement, at the same time, Marine Colonel level officers can also directly enter the Fishman Island. Or get the Queen's permission. After hearing these three conditions, the Straw Hat guys looked at each other. This cat seems to be unable to do any of them. Zoro assumed an attacking stance again. It's always easier to go to the Fishman Island than to go to the naval headquarters. Just as he finished speaking, a rush of water rushed up from the bottom of the sea. When I came back to my senses, I saw that there were more than a dozen Super Sea Kings floating around Thousand Sunny, which only lived on the seabed. The Thousand Sunny is not small, but it is not even as big as a scale on the Sea Kings. The knife that Zoro was holding in his mouth fell to the ground. Nami and the others were so frightened that they sat on the ground, tears streaming down their faces. The Shark Man was not panicked when he saw these Sea Kings. He turned around, looked at the deep sea, and half knelt in salute. Prince Sharkstar. In the deep sea, a fish dragon chariot was speeding towards them. Stop, Queen Shirahoshi has ordered them to enter the Fishman Island. This is, let it go. A dozen Super Sea Kings dived into the deep sea again. Sharkstar walked up to the Straw Hat group. Come with me, Queen Shirahoshi wants to see you. Luffy looked curious. Hey, Uncle Shark, did you call those Sea Kings just now? Sharkstar stopped and glanced at Luffy. I can't mobilize the Sea Kings. Those Sea Kings just now all obey Queen Shirahoshi. Also, boy, I have to remind you that you must be respectful when you see the Queen. The Queen knows exactly what you are thinking. Come on, follow me and don't run around. There are Sea Kings everywhere. The Fishman Island, inside the palace. The Straw Hat crew followed Sharkstar and soon arrived at the main hall. At the end of the hall, a curtain mostly covered the throne, and everyone could only vaguely see a graceful figure sitting on it holding a scepter. Sharkstar bowed respectfully to Shirahoshi who was sitting on the throne. The Queen. The Straw Hat guys were looking around like curious babies. Behind the curtain, Shirahoshi looked at everyone with a smile on his face. Monkey D. Luffy, now that you are meeting this queen, why don't you bow? Chapter 283 Filial piety deteriorates as Shirahoshi's cold voice sounded. The fishman guards on both sides slowly pulled open the curtain in front of the throne. Below, the Straw Hat people standing on the red carpet in the hall finally saw the appearance of Shirahoshi, the new mermaid queen. Unlike other mermaids, Shirahoshi's lower body is not a fishtail, but a pair of legs just like humans, tall and slender. The only thing that can prove Shirahoshi's identity as a merman is probably the few colorful scales attached to his neck, which not only highlights Shirahoshi's identity as a mermaid, but also adds a layer of unreal beauty to it. Chopper, who was lying on Frankie's shoulder, was the first to react. He jumped onto Sanji and covered Sanji's eyes with his hooves. Close your eyes, Sanji, or you'll die. Unfortunately, Chopper's words were a step too late. After seeing Shirahoshi's appearance, blood spurted out of Sanji's nostrils like a hemorrhage. The pressure was so great that it even generated a powerful force, causing the whole person to fly backwards, and finally fell to the ground with a satisfied look on his face turning pale. Sanji. Hold on, Sanji, who was beaten to death, had a happy face. I didn't find the Sea of Miracles. Although I feel a little regretful, but to be able to see such a beauty, my life is worth it. After saying that, Sanji tilted his head and remained motionless. Sanji. Chopper kept pushing Sanji. The Straw Hat guys are used to this. Luffy stroked his chin and looked at Shirahoshi with curiosity. Do you know me? Shirahoshi gave a meaningful smile. Know you? Shirahoshi covered his mouth and laughed. I know you more than just knowing you. When you went to naval headquarters, I helped you a lot. If I hadn't mobilized a dozen Sea Kings to block the Marine's path, the Marine would have been in a panic. Do you think Hancock alone can bring you into the headquarters quietly? Luffy suddenly realized that it was no wonder that when Aunt Hancock took him to the headquarters, he basically did not encounter any Marine inspections on the way. Oh, so, you are a really good person, arigato. Inside the palace, everyone looked at Luffy in silence. This guy's definition of a good person is really casual. In this ocean, no one would lend a helping hand for no reason, let alone do such a big favor as stopping the Marine. If it were someone else, if they brought up this kind of thing under such circumstances, they would definitely want to negotiate conditions and ask for compensation. Luffy even said nonchalantly that the other person was a good person. Shirahoshi couldn't help but laugh at Luffy's clueless look. You really haven't learned anything from your uncle's character. Luffy was confused. Uncle? Do you know Uncle? All the Straw Hat people pricked up their ears. Even Sanji, who was lying stubbornly on the ground and losing too much blood, came back to his senses and looked like he wanted to eat some melon. Advertisement Shirahoshi gave Sharkstar a look. Sharkstar understood what he meant, nodded, and turned away with his guards. Shirahoshi stood up from the throne, holding the scepter and walked down the steps to Luffy. As Shirahoshi approached, everyone became more aware of Shirahoshi's beauty. Her beauty is simply otherworldly, and her every move attracts the attention of people around her. No matter where you go, as long as Shirahoshi is there, the surrounding scenery seems to automatically become the background, just to highlight her presence. The delicate facial features are all just right. Every part of the body is not a bit more or less. With the addition of the crown and scepter, it adds a sense of noble temperament. Sanji scored twice, half kneeling on the ground in an extremely shameful posture, and it was obvious that he was about to collapse. Shirahoshi waved his hand, and two fishman guards stepped forward and took the unconscious Sanji to the medical room. Shirahoshi and the Straw Hat Pirates were the only ones left in the hall. Shirahoshi suddenly breathed a sigh of relief when he saw this, and his noble temperament disappeared. Finally I don't have to pretend anymore. It's really tiring to act like a queen all day long. Shirahoshi's beautiful star-like eyes suddenly turned and looked at Luffy, then walked around Luffy. Under the surprised gazes of the Straw Hat people, Shirahoshi rubbed Luffy's head like an elder. Even Luffy looked stunned. Kid, I'm your uncle's only disciple, so I'm your elder. You are really brave. You come to the Fishmen Island without even getting all the information? The Fishmen Island, oh no, it should be called the Mermaid Principality now. It's not like before, outsiders can enter and leave the Fishmen Island at will. As he spoke, Shirahoshi raised his chin and motioned for them to look at the foamy deep sea surrounding the Fishmen Island. Dozens of terrifying sea kings suddenly emerged. Shirahoshi waved his hand, and many sea kings disappeared into the deep sea again. See? Now if you dare to enter the Fishmen Island without permission, your boat won't even be used to make a nest. Even Luffy, who was known for his big heart, was frightened and swallowed his saliva by Shirahoshi's terrifying methods. Shirahoshi smiled and said, Okay, it's okay. Once you arrive at the Fishmen Island, it's like arriving at home. I'll protect you from now on. Shirahoshi patted Luffy's shoulder like a big sister. Her temperament at this moment was completely different from the temperament she had shown just now when the fishman was present. The Straw Hat guy's eyes twitched. Is this really the same person as the fairy-like queen just now? Okay, I've asked someone to prepare a dinner for you. You can walk around now. On the side, Nami smiled sheepishly. Queen Shirahoshi, since you are the disciple of your Uncle Luffy, what should I address you as? Advertisement. Call her the queen, or... Just as Nami finished her words, Luffy beside her suddenly had an idea. Of course I call you auntie. Nami and the others were shocked by Luffy's words. This idiot, he is a disciple, how can he yell at me like that? However, when they turned their attention back to Shirahoshi and thought about apologizing, they saw that Shirahoshi, who was so carefree a second ago, now had a red face and showed a shameful and angry attitude like a little girl. No, that's outrageous. I'm your uncle's disciple. No, but if you insist on calling me that, then, it's up to you. Look into my eyes, can you dare say this even more against your will? Hey, that's your master, has your filial piety changed? Nami complained madly in her heart. Shirahoshi seemed to realize his mistake and coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. Okay, since this is your first time at the Fishmen Island, I'll ask someone to show you around. Little Luffy, if you see anything you like, just take it. I'll ask someone to pay for it later. Even if it's a gift from your aunt. Shirahoshi's voice got quieter as he spoke further. Then he turned and left the hall as if running away. Nami's eye twitched. That's right. Judging from the situation, it is certain that filial piety has changed. Turning to look at Luffy, Nami asked curiously, Luffy, how do you know that your uncle, the apprentice, likes his master? Luffy scratched his head, looking puzzled. What do you mean I know? I don't know. But every time I meet a woman who knows my uncle, I just call her aunt and she will be very happy. Hancock was like this before, and he even treated me to a big meal. It's the same situation as now. Don't worry, I have experience in this kind of thing. As usual, someone should come and give us something soon. Just as Luffy finished speaking, two beautiful mermaids walked in from outside the hall, bowed in front of the people and smiled. Master Luffy, the Queen has ordered us to take you on a tour of the Fishmen Island. This is the shopping card that Her Majesty the Queen prepared for you. You can spend it freely on the Fishmen Island. Luffy clapped his hands and turned to look at Nami. See, I was right. Nami, Robin and others. Chapter 284 Marine General, Ace inside the palace, at the long dinner table. Shirahoshi sat in the main seat. Mermaid guards stood on both sides serving everyone. At this moment, Shirahoshi has regained the noble temperament he had when he just met everyone, and every move he makes exudes nobility. Cheers to the guests who have come from afar. After drinking a glass of wine and looking at the table full of delicious food, Luffy's mouth was already watering. When I heard that we could finally start eating, I started eating without any hesitation. In comparison, influenced by Shirahoshi's noble temperament, the other members of the Straw Hat Pirates appear much more gentle. Especially Sanji, who put on an aristocratic look, holding a knife in his hand, ready to enjoy the steak in front of him, looking extremely elegant. However, just as Sanji was about to cut a piece of beef and put it in his mouth to taste it, the soft feeling of the beef being cut by the knife did not appear. When I looked down, I saw that the beef that was in front of me a second ago was now only a bone, an empty plate, and a little soup on the plate. Luffy on the side was holding a whole steak, tearing into it as if he had some life and death grudge. Sanji. Luffy, you rude fellow, pay attention. It is extremely disrespectful to show such a wild attitude in front of a noble lady like Queen Shirahoshi. Nami and Robin, who were sitting next to each other, looked at each other. Thinking about how Shirahoshi acted like a big sister when Sanji was not here just now, she looked at Sanji with a strange expression. This guy doesn't know that Shirahoshi's nobility is just an act, and he is a completely different person in private. At the main seat, Shirahoshi smiled indifferently. It's okay. There's plenty of food. You can ask someone to get it anytime. The most important thing today is that everyone enjoys themselves. Luffy was holding a piece of barbecue, his eyes sparkling, and he kept nodding. Thank you, Auntie. Shirahoshi's face turned red and he was overjoyed when he heard the word, Auntie. Hurry. Keep serving the food. Can't you see that the plates around my nephew Luffy are all empty? Straw Hat people. After 3 rounds of drinks, Luffy touched his round belly with a look of satisfaction. Shirahoshi also put down the wine glass in his hand and waved his hand to signal the guards to retreat. Advertisement, Luffy, you should have met your brother. Did he tell you that the Fishman Island can enter the New World? Luffy was stunned. Brother? No. As soon as Luffy finished speaking, Nami quickly covered Luffy's mouth. Okay, idiot, stop talking nonsense. He turned to look at Shirahoshi again and smiled apologetically. Queen Shirahoshi, we have indeed met Ace. He is now a Marine, and he was the one who reminded us cryptically in the Saboti Islands before that you and Lord Su Ming were familiar with each other, so we came here and wanted to enter the New World. Shirahoshi nodded, as if he had expected this. Woo. Luffy struggled desperately with Nami covering his mouth. Nami, are you saying that the person we met at the bar earlier was really Ace? But he clearly said he wasn't, and how did he become a Marine? Nami covered her face speechlessly. You guy, has your brain been digested as protein? There aren't so many coincidences in the world. Luffy's eyes lit up with joy. Nami, so Ace is not dead. Shirahoshi rested his chin on his hand, looked at the innocent Luffy and shook his head. This guy is really simple. Nami is right, that is Ace. How could your uncle just watch you get into trouble? His joining the Marine was probably arranged by your uncle. As for why he didn't reveal his identity to you, it's very simple. Now the rumors on the sea are that Ace is dead. Of course, he can't recognize you so blatantly. Luffy pouted, looking a little unhappy. Uncle, what a joke. Why did he let Ace be a Marine? Those guys are not good people. They're always chasing us. Shirahoshi. Nephew Luffy, is there a possibility that you are not good people? Nami on the side couldn't bear to watch it anymore and punched Luffy on the head. Don't embarrass yourself, idiot. We are pirates, and it is only natural for the Marine to hunt us down. Advertisement, besides, don't forget that your grandfather and uncle are also Marines. If they find out you said that, they will definitely beat you to death. The Straw Hat guys were completely terrified of the elders in Luffy's family. On the side, Shirahoshi also smiled and said, Luffy, I also think you should be careful. Your words can easily reach your uncle's ears. I know his character. Luffy shuddered, looked around quickly, and then breathed a sigh of relief. Hey, it's okay. There are no outsiders here. Shirahoshi shook his head and smiled. You underestimate your uncle. Both his strength and the power of his subordinates are beyond your imagination. You think everyone in the ocean is stupid. How could no one see such an obvious scene in Summit War? Did they really think Ace was dead? The Straw Hats looked at Luffy. Zoro said mercilessly, I guess no one else would believe it except our idiot captain. Shirahoshi smiled slightly. Yes, but now the news of Ace's death is still spreading in the sea, and there is not even a second voice. What do you think is the reason? Sanji slowly exhaled a puff of smoke and said in a deep voice, because those strong people who have obtained the real news are afraid of those who leak the news. Shirahoshi gave a look of approval. Anyway, little Luffy, you better be careful with your words, or you'll be in trouble the next time you see your uncle. Cold sweat immediately flowed down Luffy's temples. One bad memory after another has begun to attack me. Everyone ignored Luffy. Robin, who had been silent, turned to look at Shirahoshi and asked curiously, Saboti Archipelago is still some distance away from naval headquarters. Ace's identity is so sensitive now. Is it really okay for him to walk around like this? Everyone was curious about Robin's question and turned their eyes to Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi slowly picked up a newspaper beside him and handed it to Robin. The newspaper headline, a piece of news, caught the eyes of several people. The former Marine Admiral secretly formed an illegal organization and stockpiled dangerous explosive rocks. The Marine has recently sent its headquarters generals to suppress it. Looking at the headlines, several people immediately understood why Ace appeared in Saboti Archipelago. Shirahoshi shrugged and said, if I'm not mistaken, Ace should be the general mentioned here. Luffy stood up suddenly. No, Ace will be in danger. Luffy has experienced the strength of Marine Admiral. Even though Ace is stronger than him, Luffy still doesn't believe that Ace can beat an admiral, even the former admiral. Luffy turned to look at Shirahoshi and said seriously, I want to go to the New World, and I want to go now. Can you help us? Chapter 285. Maramara Fruit's Potential, a Disruptor. New World, a bare and inconspicuous island. At this moment, it was surrounded by more than a dozen warships from the headquarters. On the island, a group of soldiers wearing uniforms somewhat similar to those of the naval headquarters were looking at a dozen warships on the sea with vigilance. Ace stood at the bow, holding a Den Den Mushi in his hand, looking down. Walking through the crowd, he saw a purple-haired man wearing a black windbreaker and a seastone mechanical crusher on his right arm, also looking at him. Ace frowned at the powerful aura coming from the man. Uncle, the one with purple hair is Zephyr Admiral, right? Ace said to the Den Den Mushi in his hand. Su Ming, who was far away at the headquarters, put his legs on the desk and said lazily. Yes, it's him, but he's already the former admiral, and he's already 70 years old. Ace's eye twitched and he glanced at Zephyr, who was standing in the crowd with an imposing manner. No, uncle, are you sure he's going to be 70? I see how come his mental state is better than mine. Uncle, you should have told him in advance. I'm only here for show this time. Don't get really physical later. I really feel like I'm no match for him. Although Ace didn't know how strong Zephyr was, judging from Zephyr's aura, he was not much different from his own old man Garp. I have seen Garp's strength. He is not someone I can resist now. Su Ming, who was sitting on the office chair, frowned in dissatisfaction and said unhappily, you little b************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** If you continue to be so useless, I will put Zephyr on the phone right now and have him give you a good beating. All you do is drink, and now you can't even beat an admiral? Go away. Stop embarrassing yourself here and bring back the historical text, or I'll put the photo of you with your Mediterranean hairstyle on the bounty list. Beep, beep, beep. The Den Den Mushi slowly retracted into its shell. Ace looked at the Den Den Mushi in his hand and felt like crying. Yamato, who was standing by, patted Ace's shoulder sympathetically. Ace grasped his hair helplessly. After a while, Ace adjusted his state, looked at Zephyr below, picked up the speaker and spoke loudly. Former Marine Admiral Zephyr, you illegally formed an armed force and secretly stored explosive rocks. I am under orders from the naval headquarters to destroy the explosive rock and arrest you at the same time. I hope you won't resist and cause unnecessary casualties. In the crowd, Zephyr sneered when he heard this. Boy, you want to catch me? You are still a little naive. The explosive rock is on this island. If you have the ability, take it from Lousy. I'm afraid you, a young man, don't have the ability. Ace pulled the marine cloak off his shoulders, jumped off the deck with his legs, and rushed towards Zephyr. Advertisement: the turquoise flames instantly attached to his arms. Zephyr looked at the attacking Ace with excitement in his eyes. Armament hockey, which had been tempered to the limit, instantly covered his arm, and the black arm had a hint of metallic luster. Come on, kid, let me see how good you are as a Marine Junior. I don't know the fire, the unquenchable flame. The attacks collided. With the two of them as the center, a hot airwave rose up, blowing everyone around toppled. Ace clenched his teeth, and seemed to have some difficulty facing Zephyr's fist. At the same time, I was secretly amazed in my heart. As expected of a man called Black Arm, this armament hockey is something that no human could forge. Zephyr seemed to have seen through Ace's thoughts. He grinned at Ace and teased him in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Boy, it seems that you have been lazy in your training. When Su Ming was your age, he was much better than me. Hey, this is not the place to talk, kid, bear with it and take this punch from me. Zephyr didn't give Ace time to react. After forcing Ace back with one blow, he gathered strength in his right arm again and punched Ace before he even hit the ground. Bang, almost subconsciously, Ace crossed his arms in front of his chest. However, the moment his fist touched Zephyr's, Ace had only one feeling in his heart. What hit him was not a fist at all, but more like a battleship crashing into him. The onlookers saw Ace fly backwards like a deflated balloon and fall towards the center of the island. Ha ha ha, kid, it seems you are still too naive. Zephyr laughed wildly and used the pinnacle of Marine 6 styles, shave, to catch up. Yamato on the deck saw this and hurriedly chased after him, holding the video Den Den Mushi in one hand. On the beach, the two forces saw this situation and it was unknown who shouted first, and they immediately started fighting. Island Center. There is an active volcano in the center of the island, and the temperature here is even hotter than in the outer area. Ace and Zephyr were standing on a stone platform floating on the lava. Zephyr shook his wrist and looked at Ace with a smile. How was it, kid? How did that punch feel? On the stone platform, Ace smiled bitterly. Senior Zephyr, you really don't look like a 70-year-old man. Zephyr's punch just now was really fierce. If there are a few more punches, Ace isn't sure he can take them. Zephyr chuckled. Advertisement, haha, even though I'm already 70 years old, I can fight for another 10 years without any problem. With the life potion provided by Su Ming, Zephyr's strength did not decline as much as in the original Pirate's King. Ace rubbed his sore arm, took a breath, and then assumed an attacking stance again. Even though it's acting, you have to act it out fully. At least the soldiers brought by both sides should be able to hear the noise so that they can go back and give an explanation. Haha, good boy, be careful, you are quite strong, I won't hold back too much. Shave. Zephyr disappeared in an instant. The next second, a pitch-black fist slammed towards Ace's face. Ace blocked the turquoise flames in front of him without any effort. Although it was an intangible element, it was like a thick steel plate in front of Ace, blocking Zephyr's fierce punch. In the distance, Yamato was holding the Den Den Mushi in his hand, with excitement in his eyes. Come on, Ace, Naval Headquarters. Su Ming was drinking while watching the images sent back by the impact bug, and he couldn't help but be amazed. This stinky old man seems to have become stronger in recent years. It seems that the life potion can indeed delay aging. Yes, Ace has been busy during this period. It turns out that the Mara Mara fruit still has potential for development. The temperature of this blue flame is close to the magma of a kainu. The news of Ace and Zephyr's battle spread across the island. Seeing that the play was almost over, Zephyr was ready to defeat with one move, and then go with Ace to copy the historical text. However, at this moment, a shadow suddenly covered the island. The sky fell into darkness, then a familiar voice sounded above their heads. Ace, I'm here to help you. I saw a sea king several times larger than the island swimming in the air. Luffy jumped down from above. Zephyr froze for a moment, then turned to look at Ace with a weird look on his face. Boy, didn't your uncle explain it to you clearly? If you want to find external help, I will have to increase the intensity for you, right? Ace. He covered his head speechlessly. I should have met Luffy before coming here. This stupid younger brother, the show was about to end, but he came to disrupt it and all the plans were messed up. The battle that had already ended was started again. Chapter 286 Charlotte Linlin. The troublemaker Luffy fell to the ground with an excited look on his face, and ran towards Ace. Ace. Ace's face turned dark and he covered his face speechlessly. This idiot. On the other side, Zephyr glanced into the distance and saw that many Marines had gathered around them. It would be of no benefit to anyone if the situation continued. Zephyr took a deep breath, his armament hockey condensed even more, and shouted at Luffy in a voice that everyone could hear. How dare you, mere pirates, come and act so presumptuously in front of me. I will take care of you too. Luffy didn't understand what was going on, and was directly knocked away by Zephyr's punch. Ace rolled his eyes inwardly, knowing that now that Luffy had shown up, the battle had no choice but to continue. Without saying anything more, Ace reached out and grabbed Luffy, whispering, Luffy, things are complicated here. Now try to hold on in Zephyr's hands. Someone should be here to help you clean up the mess later. Luffy turned to look at Ace and scratched his head, obviously not understanding the meaning of Ace's words. Ace, what are you talking about? If this guy attacks you, he must be an enemy. If he is an enemy, just beat him away. Rubber. Seeing Luffy attacking without asking any reason, Ace was even more speechless. This silly brother didn't even ask who the other person was before taking action. But it's better this way. With so many eyes watching, the more I explain, the more problems will arise. Forget it, just do as he said and fight first, Ace muttered quietly. The Devil Fruit ability is activated again, Flame Fist. Ace and Zephyr were intentionally or unintentionally expanding the battle circle to prevent others from disrupting the situation. Zephyr couldn't hold back any longer when outnumbered. Soon Ace and Luffy were at a disadvantage. Under Zephyr's dark iron fist, his face was bruised and battered. Above, Shirahoshi, standing on top of the Sea Kings, was about to jump down to help. Suddenly, the communicator I was carrying with me rang. Su Ming's voice came from inside. Su Ming said with a bit of helplessness. Girl, I arranged this matter. Ace has his own things to do, so don't interfere and help. We'll think of a way to distance the mermaids from this incident and then come to the headquarters. It's really worrying. After saying that, Su Ming hung up the Dendenmushi without waiting for Shirahoshi to reply, his tone full of helplessness. Shirahoshi looked at the Dendenmushi in his hand, a trace of embarrassment flashed across his face. No matter how dumb you are, you know at this moment that you are obviously in trouble. Ace and Zephyr are just acting. Advertisement as a result. I got carried away and brought Luffy over, which disrupted the plan and turned it into a real fight. Shirahoshi is not a stupid person, but Luffy's words, "Aunt," just now really touched his heart. Shirahoshi forgot to think carefully for a moment. Now that I think about it, Zephyr was half a teacher to Su Ming, so how could he really do something to Ace? As for explosive rocks and the like, these things are very expensive. If there weren't someone financially supporting them, how could they stockpile so much of them? Looking at the three people fighting fiercely below, Shirahoshi covered his face in embarrassment. Naval Headquarters, Su Ming, who was originally watching the show, is now a little distressed. This girl, instead of managing the Fishman Island, she also got involved in this matter. It's no use fighting like this. We need to get someone to mess up this battle. With such a big commotion, and Shirahoshi showing up on behalf of the mermaid tribe, the world government and those old men must have noticed this. Su Ming knew that Yim was already looking for something to use against him. Several of his subordinates, such as Doflamingo, Enel and others, cannot be used. Su Ming rubbed his eyebrows and thought for a moment. Finally, he made a decision, took out a Dendenmushi that he almost never used from the drawer, and pressed the dial button. New World, All Nations. Charlotte Linlin, who was lying on the bed with nothing to do, was about to reach out to grab the cake on the table which obviously contained too much sugar. Suddenly the telephone started ringing. Okay. Charlotte Linlin frowned as her interest was interrupted. Looking at the private Dendenmushi that hardly ever rings, he showed displeasure. Hello, who's that? Charlotte's tone was murderous. She had already decided that no matter who the other person was, she would deprive him of half of his life as a punishment. However, hey, Auntie, you have a bad temper. What, do you have an issue with me calling you? Su Ming asked in a bad tone. Damn it, Lousy is still unhappy because of his temper with the five elders. The old lady who was still angry the last second shuddered. The Dendenmushi in my hand almost fell to the ground. After hurriedly catching it, he swallowed his saliva and asked carefully, Su Ming. Why are you calling me? Wangguo hasn't been messing with Yeshi lately. Because she had been taught a lesson so badly by Su Ming before, the aunt was almost afraid of Su Ming from the bottom of her heart. Before Su Ming appeared, he was known as the Iron Balloon, and almost no one could break through his defense. Advertisement I don't even know what pain feels like. However, when it met Su Ming, the steel balloon was almost deflated by the hammer. Su Ming didn't bother to pursue the aunt's tone and went straight to the point. You are in New World now. I'll give you an address and then we can have a fight. The matter is done. The supply of Wangguo wine and beverages will be increased by half. The aunt, who was originally a little unhappy, suddenly perked up after hearing Su Ming's words. A big fat face also showed a happy smile from the bottom of his heart. Even though it only supplies half of the alcohol, it still makes a net profit of more than 10 billion Baileys every month. In this world, who can resist money? Charlotte Linlin's tone became polite. Master Su Ming, please let me know if you have anything to say. In Den Den Mushi, Su Ming told the other party about the battle between Ace and Zephyr. Your job is to muddy the waters. The rest is none of your business. Remember, don't ask too many questions, otherwise I wouldn't mind going to Wanguo in person. Su Ming hung up the phone directly. The ant put the Den Den Mushi back on the table and muttered to herself while looking at it. I don't know how strong this guy is now. With his strength and the power of his subordinates, he should be able to unify the sea. What is he still hesitating about? Charlotte Linlin shook her head and stopped thinking about it. Since this dangerous guy Su Ming has contacted me, I'd better do as he says, otherwise he will come to Wanguo. No, it has to be faster. At the same time, there's a small island where the explosion rock is stored. Ace and Zephyr both looked a little anxious. Seeing that more and more people were gathering around and about to be exposed, Zephyr asked in a low voice during the break in the attack. Little ghost, before you came, didn't your uncle tell you that there was a plan B? Ace had a bitter look on his face, and looked at Luffy, who was already bruised and battered by Zephyr, and shook his head helplessly. Who could have thought that this stupid brother would come to mess things up? This is an admiral-level battle. How can a cannon fodder like you who just entered the new world participate in it? If I hadn't helped to fend off the blow several times during the fight just now, this stupid brother would have been beaten into a pulp with just his second gear. Ace's mind was spinning. Suddenly, the strong men on the island focused their eyes and looked in the same direction at the same time. An extremely oppressive breath came over me. In the blink of an eye, everyone saw a fat woman rushing towards them on a flaming cloud. She-4 Emperors. Charlotte Linlin. Chapter 287 Detonating Explosive Rock, New Route. Charlotte Linlin. The moment he saw Big Mom, Zephyr immediately knew what was going on. Obviously, this is the rescue arranged by Su Ming. Charlotte Linlin holds a Hosmi Napoleon in her hand and looks fierce. Zephyr, hand over the exploding rock. Before coming, Charlotte Linlin had already thought of an excuse. Zephyr understood what he meant and took off the black cloak from his shoulders, revealing his muscular body that was totally inconsistent with his age. Charlotte Linlin, you want to take the exploding rock from me? Go ahead and try? Really? The ant smiled contemptuously, holding Napoleon high above her head, with the flames of the sun Hosmi covering the blade. Emperor Sword-Breaking Blade. The elemental power and sword strike merged together, evolving into an irresistible impact that swept towards Zephyr with overwhelming force. Ace and Luffy, who were also on the battlefield, were naturally affected. Ace used the flame mirror to resist with all his strength. All Marines, follow my orders and retreat to the warships. This battle is not something you can interfere with. Zephyr also shouted, New Marine, retreat temporarily. The appearance of Charlotte Linlin gave both parties a suitable reason to retreat. The ant heaved a sigh of relief when she saw this. Without outsiders present, the play would be half done. But the attack in hand cannot stop. Ace secretly exchanged a glance with Zephyr. Zephyr glanced obscurely in the direction of the crater. Ace slowly retreated and withdrew from the battle circle. Zephyr and Charlotte Linlin, who were fighting each other, seemed not to see it and continued to fight. Of course, Ace didn't forget to drag Luffy away as well. If we let this guy stay here any longer, who knows what kind of trouble he might get into. After bypassing the battlefield and coming close to the crater, Ace finally saw his target this time. Historical text. There are 5 huge stones several meters squared, with dense text engraved on them. Walking closer, Ace carefully touched the words on the boulder. Is this the historical text? Ace naturally knew nothing about the above text. But faced with the ultimate secret of the world, an excitement rose in my heart that I couldn't suppress. On the side, Luffy kept looking in the direction where Zephyr and Big Mom were fighting. Ace grabbed Luffy by the collar. Behave yourself, kid. The battle over there is not something you can interfere with. Luffy pouted in dissatisfaction. Advertisement, Ace, what are we going to do now? Destroy the explosive rock. I heard from Aunt Shirahoshi that you were here to destroy the exploding rock and capture the former Admiral Zephyr? Ace rolled his eyes. Capture Zephyr? You think too highly of me. Even though he is a 70-year-old man, if he uses all his strength, he can easily beat 2 of us by himself. Don't talk nonsense. I'm here this time because my uncle has something else for me to do. Senior Zephyr is one of us. If it weren't for an idiot like you, I would have retreated by now. Okay, you won't understand even if I explain it to you more. Luffy, there's a historian on your team, right? I remember his name was Robin? I'll make a copy of the historical text here. She might be interested in it, too. Ace looked around again and found the explosive rocks that Zephyr had placed in advance. Each of the strange black rocks is placed in a completely sealed glass container. Ace picked up a piece and looked at it. No matter how you look at it, you can't imagine that such a small thing could be exaggerated by the world government to the extent of being comparable to ancient weapons. Ace quickly put away the copied historical text, turned around and called out to Luffy, who was still studying the exploding rock. Let's go, Luffy, let's leave quickly. The explosive rocks here are a hidden danger and are about to explode. Luffy scratched his hair. Ace, can I take some of this? Usopp would probably be interested in this. Ace stopped and turned to look at Luffy. This thing is dangerous. Ace wanted to remind Luffy that the explosive rock was something that the world government was trying hard to control. However, he only said half of his words before meeting Luffy's serious gaze. Luffy's tone was a little down. I know, but the last time I left naval headquarters, I found that this ocean was not as simple as I thought. If it weren't for my uncle, I wouldn't even be able to get into Grand Line. Ace opened his mouth, but for a moment he didn't know what to say to comfort Luffy. Based on strength alone, Luffy is definitely at the top among his peers. He has mastered intermediate armament hockey and observation hockey, and also has primary conquerors, and his fruit abilities are also being developed. With his strength, he is more than capable of matching the elite vice admiral of the headquarters. But from childhood to adulthood, Luffy's relatives, except Ace and Sabo, are no weaker than the admiral. After Su Ming's special training during this period, Ace's strength is only half a step away from admiral. This made Luffy, who was always carefree, feel a sense of frustration he had never felt before. The mere elite vice admiral is really not enough. The difference becomes apparent in this comparison. Luffy still lowered his head. Ace, I know that I was able to enter the new world largely because of the care of my uncle and the stinky old man. But I don't want to go on like this. At the very least, I want people to know that my name is Monkey D. Luffy. I'm not anyone's grandson, son, or nephew. It's not that Ace didn't understand what Luffy meant. But after listening to what Luffy said, I always feel that this kid is a bit Versailles. After a moment, Ace sighed. Forget it, it's up to you, but you can't take all these explosive rocks away, otherwise I won't be able to explain myself. Also, I'll remind you that you must keep this thing properly. If it explodes on your ship, all of you will be deregistered. Luffy showed a heartless smile on his face. Well, don't worry, I believe in my companions. Ace shook his head and stopped dwelling on the matter. Well, let's go quickly. Zephyr and Big Mom have been taking quite some time. As the first explosive rock on the island detonates, a huge noise penetrated everyone's ears. The entire island turned into a sea of fire almost at the same time. The violent shaking in the crater caused a chain reaction. The magma fell like a meteorite. Zephyr and Charlotte Linlin did not linger in the battle and withdrew immediately. Before leaving, Charlotte Linlin's observation hockey noticed something and looked up at the sky. Several stones that appeared more regular than the others were pushed high into the sky by the impact of the volcanic eruption and disappeared. Historical text. All of a sudden, Charlotte Linlin guessed the purpose of Su Ming asking Ace to come here. Su Ming is collecting historical texts. Does he want the secret of the final island too? At the same time, in the distance on the sea, Ace stood on the deck and watched Luffy on the Thousand Sunny in the distance turn around silently. Shooting. The warships bombarded Thousand Sunny with gunfire as if it was free. However, due to the distance, none of the shells landed on Thousand Sunny. On the deck, Luffy watched the warship going away with tears in his eyes. Ace, I won't let you down next time we meet. On the side, Nami patted Luffy's shoulder. Where are we going next? When you first enter the new world, you always have to choose a new route. Luffy took a deep breath and spoke firmly. Let's go to Wano Kuni. Ace just told me that if I want to get stronger quickly, I should go to Wano Kuni. I heard there's a golden instructor there. Chapter 288. The Great Purge. The fact that Charlotte Linlin was fighting with Zephyr for the explosive rock in New World was soon known to all parties. Revolutionary Army territory. At the round table in the conference room, several senior officers of the Revolutionary Army stationed at the base were all present, watching the news sent back by the intelligence network in silence. The King Ivan shook the information in his hand, looked at Dorag and asked in confusion. Long, this should be arranged by Comrade Su Ming. Zephyr and Charlotte Linlin both have dealings with him, and Charlotte Linlin's appearance is too coincidental. I just don't know why. Is it really for the exploding rock? That shouldn't be the case. With his financial resources, he should be able to get as many of these as he wants. Dorag still looked down at the intelligence, trying to find new clues from it. Sabo pondered, based on what I know about my uncle, it must be something very important that made him make such a big move, but the exploding rock doesn't make sense. And this time, my uncle didn't do it himself on such an important matter. The reason behind this is also worth pondering. Sabo said and looked at Dorag. Chief, why don't we ask directly? Given the relationship between the Revolutionary Army and Su Ming, there should be no need to keep everyone guessing here. Dorag put down the information in his hand and shook his head. No, you just said that Su Ming didn't do such an important thing himself, but asked others to do it on his behalf. This shows that his current situation is not as easy as we thought. If I'm guessing correctly, someone must be watching him, and the other party's strength makes Su Ming very afraid. At the round table, the senior leaders of the Revolutionary Army looked at each other, and the atmosphere suddenly became tense. They knew Su Ming's strength. Judging from the strength he had demonstrated, it would be no problem for him to overthrow the entire top leadership of the Revolutionary Army by himself. But even so, Su Ming is still so cautious. How terrifying is that guy hiding in the dark? Dorag thought for a moment and said, inform the comrades in other bases that from today on, all troops will enter a state of combat readiness. I have a feeling that something big is going to happen soon. Grand Line, like the Revolutionary Army, although all forces have no clear information about this incident, they have all noticed the trick. For a moment, the atmosphere on the sea became tense. Many forces have also begun to gather their strength, as if they are preparing for an unprecedented rainstorm. Naval Headquarters, Su Ming office. Su Ming sat on the chair, folded his arms and looked at Ace standing opposite him. Ace stood straight like a child who had made a mistake, with a thin layer of sweat on his forehead due to nervousness. Su Ming rolled his eyes. Okay, stop playing the victim here. This incident can't be blamed entirely on you. I also didn't consider it fully. Tell me, how did it feel to fight Zephyr this time? Although Zephyr won't fight you with his full strength, he should have shown the strength of a quasi-admiral. Su Ming did not pursue the incident caused by Ace. Now that the thing has happened, the real thing is to find a way to remedy it. Advertisement: there's no point in blaming or punishing. What's more, even I didn't expect Shirahoshi Wei to get involved in this matter. Ace breathed a sigh of relief when Su Ming didn't blame him, and as Su Ming spoke he recalled the feeling of fighting Zephyr. After a moment, Ace gave an evaluation: very strong. If we're just talking about armament color, I think Zephyr Senpai is stronger than the old man. What's more important is his skill in using haki. I feel like his armament color has somewhat deviated from the power that haki was originally capable of. Su Ming smiled after hearing this. It's okay. Although these are superficial things, it's still a gain. You're right. If we only talk about armament color, old man Zephyr is not weaker than your grandfather at all. But in terms of skills, the old man only knows how to use brute force. Zephyr is the winner in this regard. After all, he is the man called Black Arm. He has been able to hold the position of admiral for so many years without conquerors. He must have some unique qualities. Suddenly, Su Ming raised his eyebrows, looked at Ace and said, "Young man, do you want to become stronger?" Ace's eyes lit up. "Uncle, do you have a way to make me stronger?" This time when fighting against an admiral-level warrior, Ace really felt the gap between himself and the top warriors. The desire to become stronger also became more urgent. When he heard Su Ming asking him if he wanted to become stronger, he nodded without any hesitation. Su Ming looked at the excited Ace with a playful smile on his face. "Of course, go to the training grounds and wait for me. I'll find you later. I guarantee that they are the top teaching staff in this sea." Ace nodded excitedly. "Okay, then uncle, I'll go first?" Su Ming nodded. "Go ahead, tell Shirahoshi to stop standing outside the door and come in. I'll come find you in a bit." Ace walked out of the office with an excited look on his face. Su Ming looked at Ace's leaving back and his smile grew wider. "You little brat, you may be happy now, but you will be in trouble later. It is not easy to become stronger quickly. Don't even think about it without putting in a lot of effort." Apparently Ace hasn't realized this problem yet. Advertisement. As he was talking, Shirahoshi, who had been standing outside the door for a long time as punishment, walked in timidly. Seeing Su Ming, Shirahoshi lowered his head. "Master." Looking at Shirahoshi's pitiful appearance, Su Ming rolled his eyes. "What can you tell me about you? Now that you're powerful, you dare to interfere in everything." Shirahoshi lowered his head a little bit, but still said, "Master, I was wrong. I didn't know it was you who arranged this matter. Besides, Luffy is your nephew, and I also want to help him, so." Su Ming stood up and walked to Shirahoshi, extending his hand. Shirahoshi shrank his neck in fear, closed his eyes tightly and looked resigned to his fate, which made Su Ming both angry and amused. Su Ming reached out and flicked Shirahoshi's smooth forehead. "Ah!" Shirahoshi cried out in pain, covered his head and looked at Su Ming aggrievedly. Su Ming sighed and reached out to rub Shirahoshi's head again. "This matter is very complicated, not as simple as you see. You have the ability of Poseidon, which can be very useful at critical moments. Don't expose your strength easily." Su Ming walked slowly to the windowsill and looked in the direction of Marijoy, the holy land of celestial dragons. "If I'm not mistaken, Yimu should have received the news. I didn't expect it to get to this point so quickly." Meanwhile, Little Garden. The sleeping I Am was awakened again. Looking at the information in his hand, a strange and terrifying aura emanated from Im's body, making the space distorted. The only 3 remaining 5 elders knelt on the ground and trembled, not daring to make a sound. "Su Ming, are you collecting all the historical texts?" "Haha, interesting. After 800 years, even Roger has only collected 4 road signs." As he spoke, Yim slowly stood up from the throne. His eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the wall and collided with Su Ming in the void. "After 800 years, it's time for a new round of purge to begin." Hearing this, the 3-5 elders below trembled even more violently, as if they remembered something horrible. The next law and martial god trembled and said, "Lord Yimu, should we take action against Su Ming now?" Yim withdrew his gaze and glanced at the god of law and martial arts. Just one glance made him tremble. "No need. If he wants to collect, then let him do it. When he has collected all the historical texts, the Great Purge will begin. This time, I don't want any historical text to be lost." Chapter 289 World Will. In the office, Su Ming spread out the rubbings of the historical text brought back by Ace on the table. New information also comes into view. Outsiders are trying to rule the world. The combination of technology and the world's will, devil fruit. Indestructible power, the curse of the sea, the final catastrophe. Unlike last time, this time the historical text is not continuous. But Su Ming still got a lot of useful things from it. At the same time, it is also more certain that celestial dragons are not native to this world. Su Ming threw the rubbing aside, sat back on the sofa and rubbed his brows in annoyance. It seems the power of the devil fruit isn't as simple as I thought. A combination of technology and the world's will? Does the Pirates King's world really have a so-called world will? Su Ming shook his head. The world's will is something illusory, and Su Ming has no way of confirming whether it exists or not. Thinking in his mind, Su Ming spread out his palms, and arcs of electricity appeared at his fingertips. If devil fruit is the product of the combination of technology and the will of the world, then what about the fact that my devil fruit was obtained through a system lottery? Or maybe what he ate was not a devil fruit at all. Logically speaking, with Su Ming's current strength, devil fruit should have awakened long ago. But in fact, this devil fruit has never shown any signs of awakening. Su Ming has been trying continuously in recent years, but to no avail. Suddenly, Su Ming seemed to grasp the key point of the problem. Perhaps, the reason why my devil fruit cannot awaken is because it lacks something important. And such a thing may very well be the world will mentioned in the historical text. Su Ming leaned on the sofa and closed his eyes in meditation. If there was anyone in this world who knew devil fruit best, there would only be two people. IMM, and Vegapunk. There's no need to think about IM. If this guy knew that his devil fruit has not awakened yet, he might attack him directly. Then there is only one way left, Vegapunk. Su Ming's eyes flashed, he walked to the table, picked up the communicator and dialed the number. Marine Scientific Research Base. Guy was debugging the experimental equipment when suddenly the sound of a telephone bug interrupted his thoughts. Advertisement, damn it. Who's calling at this time? Don't you know I hate being disturbed when I'm doing experiments? However, when he saw the ringing Den Den Mushi, the anger on Guy's face immediately disappeared, and he hurried forward to pick up the Den Den Mushi. Boss Su Ming. I'm sorry I was doing an experiment and didn't answer the call in time. Guy's attitude took a 180-degree turn. Su Ming didn't want to talk nonsense because he had something on his mind. Guy, I need you to do something. I need to meet Vegapunk. Please make the arrangements. Gaisa on the other end of the Den Den Mushi was visibly stunned. Boss, you want to see Vegapunk? You haven't had any contact with him? Su Ming frowned. I'm in contact with him. Do I need to report to you? Hearing the displeasure in Su Ming's words, Guy shuddered and waved his hands hurriedly. No, boss, you misunderstood. I'm just curious. Su Ming snorted coldly. Don't be curious about things you shouldn't be curious about in the future. Go ahead, this is very important. Yes, boss. After hanging up the phone, Guy turned around and walked out of the laboratory without caring about the experimental data in his hands. In the office, Su Ming stood in front of the window, looking in the direction of the Holy Land of Mary Joyce for a long time, and finally retracted his gaze and walked out of the room. Su Ming walked out of the office, but a moment later, the office door was pushed open again from the outside. A furtive figure came in and kept searching in Su Ming's office. Historical text. Damn it. Where did Su Ming hide this thing? Did he destroy it? The person who came was Blackbeard Marshal D. Teach. Like all the major powers at sea, Teach could tell at a glance that Charlotte Linlin and Zephyr were not attacking for the exploding rock. Combining the information he had heard in the night bar during this period, Teach quickly guessed the correct answer. Su Ming is collecting historical texts. The main text of history points directly to the biggest secret of the world. After hearing the news, Teach's ambition became restless again. Even though he took Su Ming as his adoptive father, he never gave up his ambition, and he couldn't stay in the night bar forever. It is even more impossible to really submit to anyone. Ambition is something that, once you have it, will never go away. The emergence of the historical text gave him another opportunity. However, after Teach searched all the hidden corners in the office, he found nothing except some snacks. Advertisement. Teach sat down on the sofa with a dejected look on his face, a rare hint of despair in his eyes. Damn it, is Lousy really going to stay in the night bar for the rest of his life and call that guy his godfather? Teach's teeth were grinding at the thought that he would have to call a guy who was almost a generation younger than him his godfather for the rest of his life. Suddenly, Teach paused and looked to the side. He was stunned by the crumpled thing that looked like waste paper on the ground that he had never noticed before. He tentatively took it in his hand and unfolded it. Depend on. Looking at the crumpled historical text in his hand, Teach couldn't help but swear. I had been searching through all the boxes and drawers for such a long time, but Su Ming actually threw such an important thing out in the open like trash. Suddenly I felt how worthless my sneaky behavior just now was. Cursing quietly, Teach did not dare to waste any more time. He copied the rubbing in his hand again exactly as it was and left the office in a panic. Su Ming, who was walking on the way to the training ground, suddenly stopped and turned to look in the direction of his office. A hint of coldness appeared in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Su Ming sneered, shook his head, and continued walking towards the training ground. Meanwhile, at the Naval Headquarters training ground, Ace looked at the top, teaching staff, that Su Ming had hired for him, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Garp, Aokiji, Gion. Hey, we're all here. Su Ming's voice suddenly sounded at the entrance of the training ground. Then I saw Su Ming walking in leisurely. Boy, this is the first stage of training I have arranged for you. Stinky old man training your hockey. Aokiji will train you to develop your fruit abilities. As for you, Aunt Gion will be responsible for improving your combat awareness. After saying that, Su Ming turned around and looked at the three of them with a smile. Everyone, this kid is in your hands for the next month. I only have one request. 1 month later, I want to see a real Admiral level fighter. Here, take these bottles of potion. When this kid is about to die, give him one. I guarantee he won't die. Ace, who was standing by, started to tremble uncontrollably as he listened to Su Ming's words. Turning his head stiffly, Ace revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Uncle, can I quit? I don't think I'm that eager to become stronger anymore. Su Ming smiled slightly. It's too late, take away. No, uncle. I will die. Damn it, you old B******************. D. You started fighting before I even told you to start. Chapter 290. A river of blood inside the Naval Headquarters training ground, Ace's screams continued to ring out. Many passing Marines couldn't help but shudder when they heard it and subconsciously took a few steps back. The screams that occurred day and night, coupled with Su Ming's order to block the training ground, made the Marine soldiers spread more and more weird rumors about the training ground. Some say it is haunted, others say there is actually an interrogation room underneath the training ground. Su Ming didn't care about these rumors. I asked Guy to contact Vegapunk and soon received a response. Okay. The telephone in Su Ming's office rang. Hello. Boss, it's me, Guy. Well, how's it going? Su Ming went straight to the point. It's done. Vegapunk is willing to see you, but it's not very convenient for us now. Su Ming frowned, somewhat displeased. What's going on? Guy said, it's like this, boss. The world government has sent a lot of troops to the research island these days, saying it's to strengthen security, but I feel like they want to imprison all of the scientists. And all the seraphim that the world government had researched before have been activated. I don't even know what mission they're going to perform. Guy told him everything about his situation. Su Ming looked thoughtful. This was obviously not arranged by those 5 elders. The power in the hands of those old guys was almost stripped away by themselves. Only that one person could mobilize so many troops without being noticed by themselves. Yim. This guy knew that he had been in contact with the Marine Scientific Research Department, and he was obviously preparing to strike first. Okay, I know. Don't act rashly. I'll be there soon and arrange this meeting. I'll handle the other issues. Yes. Su Ming hung up the phone. Marine Science Institute. After hanging up the phone, Guy quickly contacted Vegapunk. After arranging everything, before I could even catch my breath, the door of the laboratory was suddenly opened from the outside. Several figures wearing top hats and white uniforms rushed in without paying any attention. Geisa felt a bad premonition when he saw the few people, but he still pretended to be calm and said, How dare you? Who are you? Don't you know that this is a research room? Who gave you the right to trespass here? Several white figures remained indifferent and just looked at Guy coldly. Dr. Guy, don't be nervous. We are here under the highest order of the world government to protect the safety of the scientific research team. From today on, please do not leave this laboratory unless necessary. Guy's pupils shrank and he reacted immediately. These guys are targeting the boss. Outside the scientific research island, a leading warship soon stopped at the dock. Su Ming stood on the deck, looking at the people who were waiting to greet him at the dock, his eyes slightly narrowed. Geisa and Kaji were not seen on the wooden bridge at the pier. Instead, there was a figure of Sanming in a white uniform. Su Ming recognized at a glance that these guys were members of CP0. Haha, these old guys actually still have people available. Su Ming sneered. Advertisement, but in his heart, he had to admit that he had underestimated those old guys. Even though Khalifa and Lucci have both stood on his side and poached a large portion of the talent from the CP organization when they left, after all, they have ruled the world for so many years, and there are always some cards in their hands that outsiders don't know about. For example, these 3 quasi-admiral level CP0s in front of us. If this kind of combat power were placed elsewhere, it would definitely be able to turn the tide of the battle. But now it appears here. They knew I was coming back, so they set up an ambush. But even though he knew it was a trap, Su Ming was still not panicked. Looking at the figures below, a murderous intent flashed in Su Ming's eyes. Today is destined to be an uneasy day on the island. The ladder was lowered and Su Ming walked off the boat. Several CP0 members walked up and saluted Su Ming. Master 5 Elders, we have been ordered to protect the safety of the science department. No outsiders are allowed to enter the base for the time being. Su Ming looked at the person who was speaking. Outsiders, haha, it seems you are very responsible. The leader responded, it's my duty. Su Ming smiled and asked, who does this outsider include? Does it include me? The team leader didn't know how to answer for a moment. Of course, this so-called outsider includes Su Ming, and only him. But being asked so directly by the other party undoubtedly disrupted the plans of several people. Su Ming, however, seemed to have known their reactions and looked at the 3 of them. Next second, clang. A cold light suddenly flashed before the eyes of several people. Then, the leader CP0's pupils began to dilate, and a thin blood-red line began to spread around his neck. Until the thin lines connected, the human head no longer had any support and fell to the ground. When I saw Su Ming again, the lychee sword on his waist had been put back into the scabbard at some point, as if it had never been pulled out. Bang! The headless body of the CP0 leader fell to the ground. The remaining 2 CP0s finally reacted and subconsciously wanted to draw their weapons from their waists. However, before the 2 could make any move, their bodies suddenly froze, and no matter how hard they tried, they could not move at all. Su Ming walked between the 2 of them as if no one was there and headed towards the base. Dover, take care of these guys. Bring another group of people to seal off the entire island. No one is allowed to enter or leave the island without my permission. Remember, I'm talking about anyone. From the shadows, Doflamingo came out at some point. He still wore a pair of exaggerated pink sunglasses and had a wicked smile on his face. Fiddling with the thin threads that stretched out from his fingertips, the two quasi-admiral level fighters were like toy puppets in the hands of Doflamingo, whose strength had been enhanced. Don't worry, boss. Leave this to me. Of course he knew who the anyone Su Ming was talking about was. They're the remaining 5 elders. What happened here represents that Su Ming and the 5 elders are completely on opposite sides. Looking at Su Ming's back as he walked deeper into the base, Doflamingo showed a hint of emotion on his face. Advertisement, we've finally come to this. Will there be any changes on the highest throne in the world? Haha, I am really looking forward to it. As a member of the Celestial Dragons and a vested interest in the world, Doflamingo was actually looking forward to it at this moment. Can Su Ming really overthrow this nearly 1,000 years of rule? Although he has achieved unimaginable achievements under the current order, he still wants to see what the world will become in Su Ming's hands. It's really interesting. Doflamingo raised the corner of his mouth and watched Su Ming walk into the base. Ming Jie withdrew his gaze, turned to look at the two people who were still being controlled, and revealed a cruel smile. You two, you are unlucky. My moves are not as clean and neat as the boss's, so you may have to suffer a little. As he spoke, his fingers once again moved in a strange way. The two CP0s began to show fear in their eyes, their bodies moved uncontrollably, and their hands slowly reached for the swords at their waists. The knife that was once swung at others is now going to be used on yourself. The two of them watched helplessly as he used his sword to cut off pieces of flesh from his body. Even the rigorously trained CP0 couldn't stand the pressure and opened his mouth. No, Doflamingo, we work for the 5 elders. You will be punished by the 5 elders if you do this. Doflamingo sneered and looked at the two of them as if they were idiots. Coincidentally, I also work for the 5 elders and I'm punishing you right now. You too, there is one thing you don't seem to understand. The world has entered a new era. Some people are destined to become a thing of the past, and you are just one step ahead. After saying this, Doflamingo lost interest in playing any further. The swords in the hands of the two men finally slashed across their necks. After doing all this, Doflamingo looked at the 3 corpses on the ground and shook his head. He controlled 3 cloak puppets to peer and through the corpses into the sea. The corridors in the scientific research base were not as clean and tidy as usual. The sticky blood flowed outward along the cracks between the bricks. Su Ming held the thunder gift in his hand and stepped on the blood-covered ground, like a messenger from the underworld, carrying all the life he saw. Su Ming would kill anyone who stood in his way without hesitation. Among them were some quasi-admiral level warriors, who were still defeated by Su Ming before they could even make it 2 rounds. Guy followed behind Su Ming, his face full of fear, and he looked around vigilantly from time to time. At the same time, help Su Ming find the way. Soon, the two came to a heavy protective door. Boss, the Vegapunk laboratory is in front of us, but the door here is specially made. If there is no identity verification, it cannot be opened from the outside. In addition, the laboratory has been strictly guarded. Should we identify ourselves? Guy had never seen such a terrifying side of Su Ming before, and now his voice began to tremble when he spoke to Su Ming. Before Guy could finish his words, Su Ming interrupted him. That's not necessary. We're in a hurry today. As soon as he finished speaking, a black lightning appeared in the space behind Su Ming, and then a huge skeleton arm holding an enlarged version of the thunder sword made of energy slashed out. The door that Geisa believed could never be broken from the outside was shattered with one blow. In the laboratory, more than a dozen men in CP0 uniforms were cut in half. Su Ming walked into the laboratory slowly. Look at the old man sitting in a chair in front of the test bench. Vegapunk, 5 elders, Thunder Admiral, Su Ming. This is our first meeting, how should I address you? The chair turned slowly. Chapter 291, Consciousness in the Fruit. Su Ming looked at the chair in front of him that was slowly turning. Sitting on the chair was an old man of short stature with an obviously modified head. It's Vegapunk. Looking at Su Ming, Vegapunk spoke with a smile, without any tension of being imprisoned. Sir Su Ming, it's an honor to meet you. Su Ming looked at the old man in front of him with interest. Vegapunk, the most outstanding scientist, has technology that is 500 years ahead of the world. I have always been interested in you, but the timing was not right before and we were unable to meet. Vegapunk shook his head upon hearing this, jumped off the chair, and walked to Su Ming with his hands behind his back. Mr. Su Ming praised it immediately. I am just an ordinary scientific researcher. But I am also very interested in you, and have long wanted to meet you. Su Ming raised his eyebrows slightly. Interested in me? What is it about me that makes someone like you interested? Su Ming couldn't help but feel a little strange. Although he holds a high position in the world government and the Marine, a scientific madman like Vegapunk should not care at all. This guy who devotes all his energy to scientific research and a mortal like me are like 2 different worlds. But Vegapunk's eyes clearly told him that he was not lying. As if seeing the confusion in Su Ming's heart, Vegapunk put his hands behind his back and explained with a smile. Sir Su Ming, you are the only one among the world government and Marine senior officials whose genes have not been successfully entered into the gene bank. Hearing this, a murderous intent flashed in Su Ming's eyes. From what you said, you have the genes of all the top combat forces of the Marine and world government. Vegapunk shook his head, walked over to the computer, and typed a few words on the keyboard. The right wall of the laboratory suddenly opened. On the inner wall, the utensils are neatly arranged in front of you. Su Ming walked forward and found that these glassware had different numbers and names on them. Kaido of the Beast Sample. Charlotte Linlin Serum number 002. Kizaru bloodline factor sample. Apparently this is the gene that Vegapunk has in its hands. Su Ming was looking around, and Vegapunk followed him forward, his eyes sweeping over each sample, a hint of pride in his eyes. Mr. Su Ming, what you just said is not accurate. Not only the world government and the Marines, but also the pirates' top masters have their genes here. The 4 emperors of the sea, the Shichibukai, and many powerful men from the previous era were taken in here. Even Su Ming couldn't help but feel horrified after hearing what Vegapunk said. Gaisa, who had been following Su Ming, showed a terrified expression. Vegapunk, what do you want to do by collecting so many samples? As a scientist, he dared not imagine how much top combat power could be created by the data of the top strong men on this wall. This plain-looking old man in front of me actually holds the power to move the world. Advertisement. Vegapunk still had a smile on his face and waved his hand calmly. No, please don't get me wrong. These genes are not collected by me. Instead, they are sent to me regularly by people sent by the world government. Su Ming was not surprised. In the plans of those 5 elders, whether it is serif or human body modification technology, the genes of the strong are indispensable. Since scientific research itself consumes huge amounts of resources, Impel Down naturally becomes a stable source of genetic data for the strong. But Su Ming still had a question in his mind, so he turned to look at Vegapunk. From what you just said, my genes are not in this. Don't tell me that the world government didn't send it. I have been in the world government for such a long time, no matter how much I take precautions, leaks are inevitable. And considering the fear those 5 elders have towards me, it is impossible for them to give up their research on me just because of their fear of me. In fact, because of their own strong strength, this kind of research will become more intense. But now Vegapunk says he doesn't have his own genetic samples, which doesn't make sense at all. Vegapunk did not answer Su Ming immediately. Instead, he walked around Su Ming twice, looking like a child looking at a new toy. Vegapunk shook his head. Of course it's impossible that it wasn't delivered, but your physique is very special. Special? Su Ming looked at Vegapunk strangely. Vegapunk nodded. Yes, it's very special. Look at this. Vegapunk took a gene from the wall, walked to the laboratory table, put it under the microscope, and waved to Su Ming and Guy. This is Kaido's cell. It's considered a top-notch sample here. Su Ming and Guy walked closer curiously and looked at Kaido's cells under the microscope. Vegapunk explained. This is a cell extracted from Kaido's blood sample in the early years. I also studied it for a long time at that time. The activity of these cells is dozens of times stronger than that of ordinary people's cells. Vegapunk said as he took out another sample. This is from the Shichibukai fishman Jinbei. This cell is also very interesting. It becomes extremely active in water. Of course, the strength of the cell is not as good as Kaido's, but it is also not weak. After saying that, Vegapunk turned to look at Su Ming again, took out a special syringe and handed it to Su Ming. Obviously, he wanted Su Ming to take some samples from him on the spot. Su Ming took the syringe in his hand, weighed it twice, and threw it aside. With my current physical condition, it would be difficult to break through the defense with this kind of thing. Vegapunk was stunned and wanted to say something, but he saw the lightning at the tip of Su Ming's right finger turn into a blade and cut a bloody mark on his left arm. Seeing this, Vegapunk quickly took out the vessel and a few drops of blood dripped on it. Su Ming's mind changed, and the wound on his arm healed as expected, as if it had never appeared. Such a pervert recovery speed made Vegapunk couldn't help but look at Su Ming twice more. After simply processing the samples, Vegapunk waved towards Su Ming and Guy again. Look for yourself. The one on the left is Kaido's sample, and the one on the right is yours. Under the microscope, Kaido's cells were still active, while the cells extracted from Su Ming were completely motionless. Advertisement Guy frowned and looked at Vegapunk. Is there any problem with this? Vegapunk pouted and shook his head. What's the problem? It's a big problem. Try to extract genes from these cells. Guy Saw turned and looked at Su Ming after hearing this. If I extract my boss's genes in front of him, I would be electrocuted into charcoal in the next second. Su Ming nodded at Guy, telling him to go ahead and do it. I am also very curious about what Vegapunk means. Vegapunk on the side showed a faint smile, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. Guy obtained Su Ming's consent and began to try to extract genes from the cells. However, just as he had just damaged the cell membrane a little, an arc of electricity flashed through the cell, which had been motionless. The next second, black lightning blew the entire microscope into pieces. Guy's hair turned into an afro. Vegapunk, who had been hiding far away, walked slowly to Guy and patted him on the shoulder. I have tried all kinds of methods. Unlike Kaido and others, although Kaido's body cells are strong, the power of the devil fruit is independent of the body. After saying that, Vegapunk turned and looked at Su Ming. But his ability is completely integrated into every cell in his body. Once it is separated from his own consciousness and is destroyed by external forces again, the power inside will be released immediately. So there was no way to do any research at all, but it's not all in vain. Through his situation, I did get a guess about the devil fruit. And based on this conjecture, we have made significant breakthroughs in the experiments of artificial devil fruit and awakening zone devil fruit. With that, Vegapunk returned to the test bench again, picked out a random artificial zone devil fruit, and injected Kaido's cells into the devil fruit. The next second, the zone devil fruit began to expand and change rapidly. In the blink of an eye, a monster that looked like a human but had an incomplete body appeared in front of them. Guy was shocked by the sudden change. Vegapunk was not surprised at all. He walked up to the monster, picked up a knife and cut off a large piece of tissue from the monster's body. Guy Saw and Su Ming on the side couldn't help but frown. However, the monster whose body tissues were cut off showed no remorse. Vegapunk explained patiently. Don't worry, I've done research a long time ago. In this state, he has no consciousness at all. Although its internal organs are intact, it is like a lump of meat without any consciousness. But there is one thing. The current state of this piece of meat and the awakening of the zone fruit ability have reached a synchronization rate of more than 90%. It's just that I have no conscious control and cannot act. Through this experiment, we can basically conclude that devil fruit actually has its own consciousness, but this consciousness is basically in a dormant state. As he spoke, Vegapunk showed a weird smile on his face and turned to look at Su Ming. Sir Su Ming, do you understand what I mean? Su Ming took a deep breath. Hibernation. That is to say, assuming that each devil fruit has its own consciousness, then this so-called hibernation has the possibility of awakening. Chapter 292, Spiritual Power. Fruit development. Guy Saw behind him was shocked when he heard Su Ming's words, and a chill ran down the back of his neck all the way to his head. If it is true as Su Ming said, I have also eaten devil fruit. This is like eating a time bomb. If the consciousness inside the devil fruit awakens one day, it will be hard to say who controls whom. Old boss, is there any way to peel the devil fruit? Seeing Guy acting like a loser, Su Ming rolled his eyes. I will find a way to deal with this later. Don't look so useless. Su Ming said and turned to look at Vegapunk. According to what you said, my fruit has awakened. Vegapunk shook his head. No, your situation is very special. Su Ming took a breath and waved towards Guy. You go out first. This island has been blocked by Doflamingo. When I'm done, you and Kaji can leave with me. Guy tactfully left the lab. Su Ming looked at Vegapunk with a serious expression on his face. I came here this time to discuss the awakening of the devil fruit. Fruit awakening. Vegapunk looked at Su Ming in confusion, not understanding the meaning of Su Ming's words. Su Ming no longer concealed it. My fruit ability has not awakened yet. You have done a lot of research on devil fruit. I believe you will be able to help me awaken. Vegapunk looked surprised, as if he had seen something incredible. Sir Su Ming, are you saying that your devil fruit has not awakened yet? Su Ming didn't answer. Vegapunk walked around Su Ming several times again to observe him. Because Vegapunk had done research on Su Ming, he had naturally seen the scenes of Su Ming fighting. The power exerted by the fruit has definitely reached the level of awakening. It is even several times stronger than most of the top devil fruit awakened. The flame cloud behind his head in the Thunder Emperor martial god form is one of the signs of the awakening of the zone fruit. But now, Su Ming actually said that his devil fruit ability has not yet awakened. This is totally outrageous. You haven't awakened yet, so when you awaken, will there be a big uproar? Vegapunk took 2 deep breaths, stroked his chin and looked at Su Ming seriously. Your situation is quite special. To be honest, I didn't expect this to happen. But I can give you some advice about the awakening of the devil fruit. The awakening of the fruit is ultimately related to the user's physical fitness and mental strength. The mind and body can fully bear the full power of the fruit, and then let the power of the fruit extend to every part of the body, then naturally. Vegapunk froze as he spoke, looking at Su Ming with excitement in his eyes. Advertisement. No, I see. Vegapunk suddenly went crazy and Su Ming looked weird. Is this the quirk of top scholars? Without waiting for Su Ming to speak, Vegapunk explained excitedly. If I'm not mistaken, your fruit has actually awakened. Su Ming was stunned, his eyes puzzled. Already awakened? Awakening represents the development of devil fruit to ultimate. He could clearly feel that he had not yet unleashed even 70% of the power of this fruit. Vegapunk said that his fruit had awakened. Vegapunk shook his head and took a deep breath. No, other fruit ability users can indeed unleash the full power of the devil fruit once they awaken. This is mainly because the devil fruit may contain a will. To put it more clearly, the development of the devil fruit is actually the synchronization of one's own consciousness with the devil fruit consciousness while the mind and body adapt to this power. And the user is actually borrowing power from the devil fruit. Only when your own consciousness and the devil fruit consciousness are highly unified can you unleash all your power. But your devil fruit doesn't seem to have this kind of consciousness, so it should have awakened from the moment you ate this fruit. All that's left is to continue to develop the fruit's abilities. Su Ming was confused after hearing this, but I also believed Vegapunk's words to about 70%. After all, your devil fruit is produced by the system. The devil fruit in the Pirates King world is artificially created, so there is no guarantee that it has not been tampered with. But even if what Vegapunk said was right, his fundamental problem was still not solved. I need to fully develop the power of the devil fruit, not ask about the cuz. Vegapunk guessed what Su Ming would say before Su Ming asked. I know what you're going to say. In your case, if I'm not mistaken, it should still be a problem of mental strength. Su Ming frowned slightly. Spiritual power. My observation hockey is not weak. My observation hockey is top-notch, so how could my mental strength be weak? Vegapunk shook his head again. No, after all my years of testing, the upper limit of each devil fruit is different. Some weak devil fruits can develop their full power as long as their mental strength reaches several times that of an ordinary person. But some powerful fruits may not be able to awaken even if their spiritual power is more than 10 times that of ordinary people. Just like Kaido's fish fruit, his spiritual power, also known as observation hockey, was not awakened until it was almost at the top level. Su Ming curled his lips and sat down on the chair helplessly. My purpose of coming here this time is to fully develop the power of the devil fruit. Now that the problem has been identified, I hope you can also tell me the solution. Su Ming asked the question again. Advertisement Vegapunk frowned, thinking and rethinking. If ordinary people ask, then just practice your observation and hearing. But your observation hockey is already at the top level, so you can't continue to practice it. Su Ming looked at Vegapunk without saying anything, waiting for the other party's next sentence. Vegapunk paced back and forth in the laboratory, and suddenly clapped his hands. Got it? This method is a bit stupid, but it should be effective. Su Ming said calmly. Tell me about it. As long as you continue to exhaust your mental power over and over again, there will definitely be growth. But this will take a long time. It will take at least 10 years to fully develop your devil fruit abilities. Su Ming curled his lips. You think I have 10 years? Vegapunk smiled awkwardly. He didn't know what happened between the world government and Su Ming, but judging from what happened here, it wouldn't be long before the two sides would go to war. After 10 years, the day Lily has become cold. I can help you get some training equipment, but even that can only shorten the time to 2 years. 2 years? Su Ming murmured. It is indeed not easy to shorten the time from 10 years to 2 years. But even if it was 2 years, would not give himself so much time. Seeing that Su Ming still seemed dissatisfied, Vegapunk spread his hands, looking helpless. This is the shortest time I can help you do. There is no other way. In fact, the most time-consuming part is that the recovery of mental strength takes too long. If you can quickly restore your mental strength, maybe it will only take a few months. Vegapunk is just a casual remark. Even at his current state, he couldn't recover his mental strength. This is one of the most mysterious areas of the human body, and any rash attempt to rewrite it is likely to have immeasurable consequences. However, the speaker may not have any intention, but the listener may take it seriously. Su Ming, who was about to give up, his eyes lit up again. Others may not be able to deal with this kind of thing, but it is not difficult for me. Since life potions are sold in the system mall, maybe there are some mental potions too. Looking at Vegapunk, Su Ming laughed. Let's start preparing. I want to fully master the power of the fruit in the shortest possible time. Vegapunk wondered, but the problem is mental strength. Su Ming waved his hand to interrupt Vegapunk's words. I have a way to restore your mental strength. Chapter 293, Out of the Gate, Secret Forces. Do you have a solution? Vegapunk was obviously a little unconvinced. Su Ming shook his head and didn't intend to explain. Anyway, you don't have to worry about this. I have my own way. Now go and prepare the equipment for training. I don't have much time. I must complete the development of the fruit's ability within 3 months. Vegapunk looked at Su Ming deeply, then shook his head and walked out of the laboratory. Su Ming looked at Vegapunk's back as he walked away, smiled, and looked away. Guy saw Vegapunk coming out, and went back to the laboratory again. He came to Su Ming and whispered. Boss, do you need someone to keep an eye on Vegapunk? Guy looked worried. After all, Vegapunk had no contact with Su Ming before and was not considered one of them. However, Su Ming shook his head after hearing this. No, he's a smart man and knows what to do. Vegapunk has done too much research for the world government and has mastered too many of the world government's secrets. There is no way the world government would allow him to continue to exist. Even without Su Ming, Vegapunk would inevitably face the pursuit of the world government. Right now, as long as Vegapunk wants to survive, cooperating with himself is the only way to survive. Soon, Vegapunk prepared the training equipment. Su Ming was the only one left in the laboratory. Looking at the instrument in front of him that could quickly consume his mental energy, Su Ming was not in a hurry to use it. System. How many slacking points do I have now? Open black lens bracket byte. Close black lens bracket open black lens bracket host. Su Ming close black lens bracket. Talent. Extraordinary physique, mystic eyes of death, Mangekyo Sharingan. Swordsmanship. Supreme swordsman, observation hockey, top level. Armament color. Top. Conquerors, advanced, conquerors entanglement. Thunder god fruit. Proficiency, can switch between 3 forms, freely master the power of thunder and lightning. Skills. Ghost sword, Elbaf spear, Marine 6 styles, life return, 6 king's gun, thunder god martial body. Open black lens bracket logging point. 1.36 billion close black lens bracket. Looking at his fairly substantial fortune, Su Ming nodded with satisfaction. Is there any medicine in the system mall that can quickly restore mental strength? Su Ming's mind moved, and the system mall interface popped up. Primary mental potion, one-time potion, price, 1 million fishing points. Intermediate mental potion, one-time potion, price, 3 million fishing points. Advertisement, advanced mental potion, one-time potion, price, 10 million fishing points. Even though Su Ming was prepared, he was still shocked when he saw the price. This is much more expensive than the life potion. Ding. Mental potion can assist the host in recovering mentally, and at the same time improve the host's mental strength to a certain extent without any side effects. It is considered a high-level potion in all worlds. The system suddenly explained. Su Ming raised his middle finger, but still had to accept the price. Exchange for 10 bottles of high-level spiritual medicine. Ding. Advanced mental medicine has been exchanged for the host, please check it. The system voice sounded in my heart. Several blue potions in glass bottles immediately appeared in front of Su Ming. Looking at the potion, Su Ming's eyes showed a hint of determination. Yim put a lot of pressure on himself. After several encounters, Su Ming had to admit that he was probably not his opponent. The process of quickly improving mental strength to develop devil fruit will definitely not be pleasant, but for the time being, Su Ming must grit his teeth and persevere in order to protect himself. In a blink of an eye, 3 months passed. Vegapunk's laboratory door opened again. Geisa, Kaji, and Vegapunk were already waiting outside the door. Geisa and Kaji were holding food and water. A figure walked out from behind the door. It was Su Ming. At this moment, his face looked tired, but his eyes were unusually bright. The three of them inadvertently looked at Su Ming and shuddered. Although he looked tired, there was not a trace of cloudiness in his eyes. Instead, they were clear and deep, as if they encompassed the entire world. The strange feeling made the three of them stunned for a moment, and they even forgot to greet Su Ming. Su Ming blinked, his clear eyes slowly converged, and he smiled at the three people who were in a trance. Vegapunk was the first to react, looking at Su Ming with excitement. You really succeeded. How could one improve his mental strength to this level in such a short time? How did he do it? This is amazing. Great new subject. As a science madman, the first thing Vegapunk thought of was the research value of this matter. Geisa and Jaji looked at each other, and unlike Vegapunk, they walked forward and saluted Su Ming before speaking carefully. Boss, a lot of big things happened at sea during the 3 months you were away. Guy hesitated in his words. Su Ming took the water handed to him by Jaji and gave Guy a look, indicating that he should continue. A month ago, Supernova Monkey D. Luffy challenged Kaido to a draw and left Wano Kuni. It's rumored all over the sea right now that Luffy is the most likely pirate to become the new 4 emperors among the new generation of pirates. Su Ming raised his eyebrows slightly. Advertisement. This kid's strength is improving quite fast, but Kaido is also suspected of letting the game go. Guy on the side smiled awkwardly. Yes, Kaido is a veteran 4 emperors after all, and he made a name for himself during the Rocks era. Su Ming smiled faintly. Tell me about other news. Guy nodded. Yes, there is a new star on the marine side recently, codenamed Flame Lion. Last month, the naval headquarters cleared out the pirates on the first half of the Grand Line. Yensha fought against more than a dozen pirates with bounties of over 100 million on his own. Now the news has spread in the naval headquarters that this Yensha general has been designated as the next Marine Admiral. Without Guy telling him, Su Ming knew who this rising star in Marine named Yensha was. Su Ming curled his lips. Fighting against more than a dozen pirates with bounties exceeding 100 million, tisk, the publicity is really exaggerated. The dozen or so big pirates with bounties exceeding 100 million sound good, and in the eyes of ordinary pirates they are all top figures, but in the eyes of the real strong ones, they are nothing more than small minions. This report actually has no real substance. Su Ming thought about it and shook his head again. Forget it. Anyway, being able to easily capture more than a dozen pirates with bounties over 100 million means I have the strength of an admiral. Tell me about the situation of various forces at sea in the past 2 months. I haven't shown up in the past few months, so the various forces are not so quiet. He has already shown that he is on the opposite side of the world government. Neither Yim nor the 5 elders would miss such a good opportunity. Guy nodded after hearing this. Yes, boss, I was just about to tell you that the Night Bar has suffered a great blow in the past few months. Recently, an unknown force has been targeting the Night Bar. The bar has suffered considerable losses in the past 3 months. We are still investigating which force did it, but the strange thing is that even we haven't found any clues. Su Ming frowned. Have any new forces emerged on the sea recently? Yes, Blackbeard has appeared in the New World again and has reorganized the pirates. They are quite powerful. He is now on his way to the nations, but exactly what his purpose is unclear. Su Ming sneered. It's not him. That guy is very smart. He wouldn't attack the Night Bar until he was sure he could deal with me. The most likely people who dared to attack the Night Bar are the 5 elders and Yim. But given my monitoring of the world government, I shouldn't be unable to receive any information at all. It seems that these old guys still have some hidden cards that have not been investigated. Well, I know everything. I will handle the matter of the Night Bar. Mobilize all the forces under my command and do our best to collect the historical text. I want to collect all the historical texts within a month. If anyone tries to stop us, no matter who it is, just do it. Suddenly Su Ming turned around and looked at Guy with a smile. Do you think the bar business in Raftel will be good? Well, there don't seem to be many people there. How about allocating some money to build a train that goes directly to Raftel? Chapter 294 Teach, you are amazing, you are noble. New World, in the international territory of 4 emperors and Charlotte Linlin. Several strange ships appeared on the sea. In the back garden of Bankoku Island, Katakuri walked into the pavilion. In the pavilion, Charlotte Linlin was enjoying her afternoon tea with a donut in one hand and a cup of coffee that was obviously too sweet in the other, looking very satisfied. When Charlotte Linlin saw Katakuri appear, she looked unhappy. Katakuri, what are you doing here? Even if it was her own son who disturbed her afternoon tea, she would not be happy. Katakuri trembled, and a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. Family affection is of no use in the eyes of the ant. Nor will they be given special treatment. But thinking of the news he had received, Katakuri suppressed his fear and saluted carefully, saying, Mom, the sentinels at the front sent back news that the new Blackbeard pirates, the Straw Hat pirates, and the flames of the naval headquarters appeared in our waters together. Looking at the direction, it seems to be heading towards us. Charlotte Linlin stopped what she was doing and narrowed her eyes. Blackbeard, Straw Hat, and Unshi? In recent months, the sea has been filled with news about these three people. Now that the three of them appeared in her own waters together, she would never believe it even if she was beaten to death. Most likely, the three of them came here for me, but what puzzled her was why these people came to see her. During this period, he did not provoke any of the Marines, pirates, or the world government. Su Ming hadn't shown up for several months, and she had a vague feeling that something big was about to happen. Suddenly, the old lady's pupils shrank. Historical text. The Straw Hats, Blackbeard, and Flamesword, these three are all more or less related to Su Ming. Su Ming was collecting historical texts some time ago. On the side, Katakuri also reacted immediately after hearing Charlotte Linlin's words. Mom, I heard that the Straw Hat pirates have collected 3 signposts to the final island. If he gets the piece you have. Charlotte Linlin stood up abruptly, dropped the coffee with excessive sugar content in her hand to the ground, and looked towards the dock with cold murderous intent in her eyes. These guys want what I want. A powerful pressure burst out from Charlotte Linlin. A strong wind spread outward with her as the center. Homies in the back garden was so scared that he kept screaming. Mother! Mother! Advertisement. Katakuri half knelt on the ground, unable to raise his head due to the pressure. Charlotte Linlin was very angry at this moment, but besides fear, there was also a hint of worry on Katakuri's face. Mom, these people are related to that person. Is it really okay to take action? Katakuri warned quietly. Charlotte Linlin's aura gradually subsided, and a sneer appeared at the corner of her mouth. Katakuri, you don't understand yet. Night Bar has been targeted so much in the past few months, but Su Ming has yet to show up. If my estimate is correct, that guy should be in big trouble now. I can't even take care of myself. How can I have time to care about the people around him? Besides, Su Ming is currently collecting historical texts. Kaido, that idiot, just handed over his trump card without any conditions. I'm not that stupid. As long as I keep the historical text in my hand hidden, I don't think Su Ming will dare to do anything to me. As for these few people, Charlotte Linlin's eyes were cold. If you dare to steal my things, be prepared to die early. We have been suppressed by that guy for too long. Some people on the sea have forgotten that the 4 emperors fought their way out among many pirates. At the same time, at the international wharf, the 3 ships arrived at Bankoku just as Katakuri had expected. At the bow, Blackbeard, Luffy, and Ace stared at each other warily. Blackbeard, you are so brave. You betrayed my uncle and now you dare to appear on the sea so openly. Ace had murderous intent in his eyes. His hatred for Blackbeard was almost ingrained in his bones. If it weren't for this guy, I wouldn't have been caught, and my father wouldn't have fallen into the trap and died in the headquarters. At the bow, Blackbeard sneered, a mocking look on his face. Hey, Flame Lion? It would be more appropriate to call you Ace. Don't threaten me with Su Ming. He can't even take care of himself right now. That guy has been targeted. Without his protection, what can you do to me? Blackbeard was getting crazier and crazier as he spoke. Whether it's Su Ming or the 4 emperors, they're just stepping stones for me, Marshal D. Teach. I'm the one who has the last laugh. The final island, the pirate's king, and the great treasure will all fall into my hands. Without Su Ming's pressure, Blackbeard became even more arrogant. You're dreaming. Before Ace could speak, Luffy couldn't help himself. The king of pirates will only be me. I, Monkey D. Luffy, will definitely become the pirate's king's man. Blackbeard didn't know what he was thinking about, and his dark face turned a little red, but he quickly reacted. Advertisement, humph, you ignorant brat, wait till you can walk out of this island alive. Do you know whose chassis this is? Luffy looked unconvinced and did not take Blackbeard's words to heart. Ace narrowed his eyes slightly, glanced towards the center of the island, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. But it's just fear. The purpose of my trip is to get the historical text on behalf of my uncle. Meeting Charlotte Linlin was inevitable. Before coming, Ace was prepared to take action. I just didn't expect to meet Blackbeard here. A bluish-white flame burned at the fingertips. Blackbeard, who had originally looked arrogant, suddenly froze, and a sense of danger loomed in his heart. Flame pillar. A bluish-white flame instantly rose up under Blackbeard's feet, like a bluestone jade pillar. But the jade pillar is actually a flame that has condensed to the ultimate level. The iron plate in the bow compartment was instantly melted by the flame column. In an instant, Blackbeard's ship was engulfed in flames. Blackbeard's eyes were about to burst. He subconsciously dodged Ace's attack, but after seeing the effect of the attack, he suddenly felt a little regretful. He shouldn't have dodged. If you want to fight, just fight. Why burn my boat? All my belongings are on this ship. Ace, you're looking for death. Ace was stunned. It seems like you didn't hit it just now. Why are you so excited? It's just a broken ship, worth only a few $100 million. Is it necessary to call it that? Teach. What the hell? Are you talking like that? You are great, you are noble, you are a rich young master now. 1 or 200 million is nothing to you. Do you know what kind of life I live after leaving the night bar? Blackbeard's chest heaved violently, and he became angrier the more he thought about it. Seeing Ace's lack of empathy made my teeth itch. Just as they were about to take action, an even more powerful pressure suddenly enveloped them. Thunder boomed in the sky. Mama, a few little guys actually came to my island and shamelessly said they wanted to snatch the original text of history? Don't even think about leaving today. In the distance, Charlotte Linlin was walking towards them, carrying Napoleon in her hand. Chapter 295 Challenge the Four Emperors, the Domineering Dark Fruit. Charlotte Linlin. Big Mom suddenly arrives and interrupts the fight between Ace and Teach. Teach didn't care that his beloved boat had been burned down to the frame. Blackbeard jumped onto the dock, gathered the dark aura in his left hand, and sneered at the aggressive ant. Ha 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 ha, Charlotte Linlin, you're just an old thing. You should be swept into the dust of time. 4 emperors is just Lousy's first step, so please get off this position. Blackbeard laughed wildly, not taking Charlotte Linlin seriously at all. Ace and Luffy looked at each other and said nothing. Charlotte Linlin's eyes were cold, and anyone could sense that she was extremely angry at the moment. But she suppressed all her anger in her heart and did not show it on her face. Grandma, Teach, Whitebeard is dead, and a traitor on his ship dares to challenge me? Not everyone is qualified to challenge the position of 4 emperors. Do you think you are qualified? As the ant spoke, a terrifying aura emanated from her body, while her eyes were fixed on Blackbeard. Blackbeard, who was at the center of the aura, felt the world suddenly dim, and all that was left in front of him was Charlotte Linlin's terrifying figure rising higher and higher. A great fear rose from the bottom of my heart. In the distance, Ace stood at the bow with his hands folded, watching the scene. It's Big Mom's soul spell. Soul spell? Luffy had jumped onto Ace's ship without him noticing. This time they were here to get the historical text, and Ace brought along people he could trust, so he didn't deliberately keep a distance from Luffy. Hearing Luffy's confusion, Ace explained, Big Mom ate the soul fruit. The soul spell is one of the basic abilities of the soul fruit. You interrogate people to judge their lives. If the person being judged feels a little bit of fear during the process, his soul will be taken away instantly. Souls can also be arbitrarily taken away based on lifespan. Luffy scratched his head. What is the use of this ability? Why should you be afraid of him? Ace looked at Luffy speechlessly. Given Luffy's personality, this ability is really useless to him. But for anyone else, this ability alone would be enough to be fatal. Ace shook his head. Advertisement, Blackbeard is in danger. It's a pity that this guy died at the hands of the ant, otherwise I would have let him know that even in darkness, we must retreat from flames. Ace looked at Blackbeard, who was beginning to show a fearful expression, and snorted in disdain. It was a pity that I couldn't kill Blackbeard myself. Big Mom raised her hand and grabbed Blackbeard. The anger in his eyes was gone, leaving only mockery and sneer. I dared to challenge myself and thought I would be very capable, but this is the result. The next second, a layer of dark mist appeared on Blackbeard's body, covering his entire body in the blink of an eye. The ant suddenly felt a great sense of crisis in her heart, which made her subconsciously jump away from where she was. Almost at the same time, the black energy on Blackbeard's body turned into a huge mouth and pounced towards the place where Charlotte Linlin had just been. All the places covered by the black air disappeared, and the disappeared places were smoother than any cut made by a sword. Charlotte Linlin narrowed her eyes, looked at the disappearing ground, and couldn't help but take a breath. The black mist slowly retracted into Teach's body. Blackbeard poked his head out of the mist. Ha 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 ha, you're indeed the 4 emperors. I almost got into trouble. It's a pity that I couldn't kill you in one go. Charlotte Linlin held Napoleon again, and Zeus turned into a black cloud with flashes of lightning. Prometheus also became extremely hot. She had to admit that she had just underestimated the guy in front of her. Dark fruit is worthy of being called the most evil fruit. Even the mysterious soul fruit was restrained. If I hadn't reacted in time, I might have capsized in the ditch. Thunder. The ant inserted a hand into the thundercloud, and a bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket struck Blackbeard. Teach was not in a hurry and placed the black energy in front of him. Swallow. The moment the terrifying thunder came into contact with the dark aura, it disappeared like a drop in the ocean. This Lei Ting is much worse than that one. Charlotte Linlin, you are not worthy of the title of 4 emperors with this strength. Dark impact. The dark aura emerged like a long snake, suddenly reaching out and pouncing towards the ant. Everything in the dark serpent's path was devoured. Charlotte Linlin tried to resist with her fruit ability. Advertisement, however, any fruit ability will become ineffective immediately after coming into contact with the dark aura. Homies, who is endowed with a soul, will immediately lose his vitality when he is swept by the dark aura. Big Mom quickly put Napoleon away, crossed her arms in front of her body, and used her strong body to withstand Blackbeard's attack. It was this blow that killed most of the homies in Charlotte Linlin's body. Damn it, Zeus, Prometheus, stay away, yes, Mom. In the distance, Ace looked at the overbearing dark fruit ability with obvious fear on his face. This guy has become stronger again. Dark fruit, what a tricky ability. Our own Mera fruit has been developed to a high degree. The temperature of ultimate is stronger than the magma of Akainu. Ace is now very confident in the ability of his fruit. But now seeing Blackbeard take action again, Ace's confidence was shattered. No matter how reluctant he was, Ace had to admit one thing. With just devil fruit, he is no match for Teach, but there was no disappointment on Ace's face. Instead, he looked at Blackbeard, who was still fighting with Charlotte Linlin below with great interest. Devil fruit alone won't make you the best in the ocean. Each of the 4 emperors is a top-notch taijutsu expert, and Big Mom is even known as the Iron Balloon. Blackbeard, How are you going to deal with this? As Ace expected, after putting away homies, the ant's fat body swelled visibly. Blackbeard is still attacking with dark fruit. Charlotte Linlin put her arms in front of her. The next second, Charlotte Linlin swung her arms violently. Blackbeard's extremely intensive attack tore a gap. Die. Big Mom was like an angry beast. She took advantage of the gap in the attack and rushed towards Blackbeard in an irresistible manner. Blackbeard continued to release attacks on Charlotte Linlin. However, no matter what the attack was, it failed to stop Charlotte Linlin. Seeing Charlotte Linlin approaching him, Blackbeard finally panicked. The ant rushed to teach, clenched her right fist, looked fierce, and gathered all her strength in her right hand. Elbaf's Spear, The Kingdom of Wei, Chapter 296 Joining Forces. Elbaf's Spear, The Kingdom of Wei. Following Charlotte Linlin's loud shout, a powerful shockwave hit Blackbeard's chest squarely. Ace on the distant deck only heard a scream. Blackbeard flew backwards like a kite with its string cut. The blood from his mouth drew an arc in the air. Charlotte Linlin stood there, still maintaining her punching posture, breathing heavily. It was not easy for her to resist Blackbeard's attack either. The dark fruit was developed to be very strong by the guy in front of me. To a certain extent, it ignores defense. If he hadn't relied on his strong physique, he would have died at Blackbeard's hands before he could rush to him. Wherever Blackbeard hit, large pieces of flesh and blood were eroded by the dark aura. Charlotte Linlin took a deep breath and activated the power of the soul fruit again to start repairing her body. After all, they are the 4 emperors. Blackbeard alone is no match for them, Ace muttered. Luffy on the side clenched his fists so hard that they made a crackling sound. Ace, how about I give it a try? Luffy's goal is also the historical text, which is the last piece of Raftel's signpost text, and he is determined to get it. Before Luffy could make a move, Ace stopped him. Don't worry, Blackbeard isn't done yet. As soon as Ace finished speaking, Blackbeard, who had been lying on the ground with all his bones broken, stood up in an extremely strange posture. Click, click, there was a noise going on inside Blackbeard. At the same time, he kept screaming. Ultimate's pain made Blackbeard's nose and tears flow together. Ace looked at the extremely weird Blackbeard, and the fear in his eyes almost overflowed. This guy, soon, Blackbeard recovered. Charlotte Linlin looked at Blackbeard and asked coldly, who the hell are you? A cyborg created by the world government. Blackbeard wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve, looked at Charlotte Linlin with cold eyes and smiled. It hurts. Seeing that Blackbeard was not going to say anything, Charlotte Linlin became even angrier. Humph, no matter who you are, you will die here. Charlotte Linlin's right hand is covered with a layer of armament hockey, and Conqueror's hockey is also wrapped around her arm. The Blackbeard in front of him was a very ambitious guy and had become a threat to him. Advertisement Charlotte Linlin knew that she had to kill this guy today no matter what. Blackbeard looked at Big Mom's fist and thought about what had just happened. He also knew how terrifying this punch was, and a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. Obviously, he was no match for Charlotte Linlin. If this continues, there will be only one outcome. He died at the hands of Charlotte Linlin. Blackbeard's eyes rolled, and he suddenly turned to look in the direction of Ace and Luffy. Ace, Straw Hat Boy, I know you guys are here to get the history text as well. Blackbeard pointed at Charlotte Linlin. This guy is harder to deal with than I thought. No matter which of us fights him alone, we are no match for him. How about we join forces and defeat this guy first and then divide the historical text? Luffy subconsciously wanted to refuse, but Ace reached out again to stop him. Looking down at Charlotte Linlin, Ace said, Charlotte Linlin, you should know who I am representing. Give me the historical text, and I don't need to get involved in this matter. Ace was not willing to join forces with Blackbeard unless necessary. It would save a lot of trouble if we could get the historical text directly. Charlotte Linlin turned her head and sneered at Ace. I know who you represent, but no matter who comes today, I will not hand over the historical text. Don't think I don't know. That guy must be in big trouble right now. In the past few months, almost all the night bars in New World have been cleaned out. You guys are not qualified to ask me to hand over my things. Charlotte Linlin didn't take Ace seriously at all. In the past, I was respectful to the night bar and the people around Su Ming because Su Ming was the one who was putting pressure on me. That scary guy really has the ability to kill himself. And now that Su Ming is gone, Charlotte Linlin has naturally resumed her 4 emperors demeanor. Ace narrowed his eyes slightly. It seems that you have decided to betray my uncle. Charlotte Linlin snorted coldly. I never said I would submit to him. I was just cooperating with that guy before. Okay. Ace nodded. Explosive flame battle axe. On the deck, Ace's figure disappeared in an instant, and appeared above Charlotte Linlin's head the next moment. Ace, with bluish-white flames all over his body, kicked Charlotte Linlin's head. The flames attached to the calves further increase Ace's strength and speed. Charlotte Linlin raised her arms above her head, trying to block Ace's attack. The moment the two collided, the ground beneath Charlotte Linlin's feet suddenly cracked. With the two of them as the center, a wave of energy swept out. Charlotte Linlin was also shocked by the terrifying power that Ace unleashed. Advertisement this attack alone is no less powerful than Admiral's. Dark Cave Road. Gear 4. Ape King Spear. Blackbeard saw that Ace had suppressed Charlotte Linlin, and he attacked without hesitation. Luffy saw Ace take action and followed suit. Suddenly, Charlotte Linlin was under increasing pressure. Get out of here. With her life threatened, Charlotte Linlin decided to show her strongest side. The powerful conquerors exploded, forcing the three ace members to retreat. Charlotte Linlin jumps onto Thundercloud Zeus. At the same time, Prometheus attached himself to Big Mom's head and turned into a head of flaming red hair. The Napoleon in Charlotte Linlin's hand has three powers attached to the blade: lightning, fire, and hockey. In an instant, her aura doubled. However, it is not over yet. In midair, Charlotte Linlin opened her mouth and took a deep breath, and the life of Homies, who had a soul attached to him on the island of 10,000 nations, was forcibly taken away. As the ant's lifespan increases rapidly, her strength also increases. Stop her. We can't let her absorb any more life, otherwise we might really die here. Ace yelled. This statement was obviously addressed to Blackbeard. Among the three, he is the only one who has the ability to cut off Big Mom's life absorption. At the same time, at the headquarters of Night Bar, Dorag came to Su Ming's office under the guidance of Khalifa. Bang, bang, bang. Come in. Su Ming's voice came from the office. Dorag walked into the office, pulled down his hood, and looked at Su Ming sitting in the chair. I brought all the historical texts that I could collect. Now, all we need is the few pieces in Andy's hand. Su Ming turned his chair and nodded. Yes, that's all it takes. Dorag looked at Su Ming strangely. You're not going there yourself? Su Ming chuckled. No need, Ace and your precious son are gone. If you can't even get a few pieces of historical texts back, what can you do in the future? Su Ming paused and turned to look out the window. Besides, we have guests coming. I have to entertain them myself. Chapter 297 Life is too shallow. As soon as Su Ming finished speaking, a figure appeared in the room without warning. Su Ming looked at the figure that suddenly appeared with a playful expression, then stood up with a smile. Ma'am. Dorag's pupils shrank, and the expression on his face unconsciously became tense. Isn't it the king of celestial dragons? Dorag turned around nervously. I saw a tall woman with long blue hair appear not far behind me. What impressed Dorag most about her was her lifeless eyes. Cold, contemptuous. It seemed that she didn't take everything seriously. Although Im's gaze was directed in his direction, Dorag felt like a piece of air in the other's eyes, with no sense of existence at all. In fact, this is true. Yim walked past Dorag without any care, without even looking at him, came to Su Ming's table, and looked at Su Ming coldly. Su Ming, you are so good that you even fooled me. Yimu's voice was calm. It's like he's talking about something that has nothing to do with him. Su Ming smiled and looked at Yimu, saying nonchalantly, Lord Yimu, you are wrongly accusing me. When have I ever lied to you? Yimu's voice became even colder as he asked, how dare you say you are loyal to me? She thought Su Ming would make some excuses or bring up the other 5 elders. However, Su Ming spread his hands and said, I dare not. Yim. Dorag, who was standing by, clearly saw that Im's expressionless face froze for a moment. In the beginning, I granted you enough rights in eternal life. Yim reminded that Su Ming had taken advantage of his situation, so he should keep his word. Su Ming blinked and looked at Yim innocently. But I also said at the time that I don't have many faults, I just like to slack off a bit, and you also accepted it. Besides, you've offered me all the benefits, and if I don't want them, I'd be a fool. I'm a businessman. Of course I won't talk nonsense if I see benefits, I'll get the benefits first. But I didn't expect it to be so smooth. Looking at Su Ming's shameless look, even though Yim had lived for 800 years, he was still so angry that he broke down, and veins popped out on his smooth forehead. Well, in hundreds of years, Su Ming, you are the first person who dares to lie to me. Advertisement. Su Ming touched his nose a little embarrassedly. I really didn't expect that you had so little life experience and were so gullible. Dorag, who had been standing aside silently, tried hard to suppress his laughter. Good. Yim laughed in anger. Su Ming, you have been with Vegapunk for some time. You are improving your strength, right? I would like to know to what extent your strength has improved during this period of time. Su Ming raised his eyebrows and looked at Yim, then smiled indifferently. Why not give it a try? As soon as the words fell, a bolt of thunder exploded in the void. Naval Headquarters Marin has many varieties. The originally sunny weather turned into dark clouds in the blink of an eye. The thunderclouds spread all the way to the horizon and connected with the sea. Thunderbolts as thick as buckets kept rolling in the clouds. Inside the headquarters, Marine, who noticed something was wrong, looked up and was immediately frightened by the scene in front of him and broke out in a cold sweat. What's going on? Something's wrong. The weather isn't right. Wait, I thought of someone. Some high-ranking officials of the naval headquarters narrowed their eyes at the terrifying Lei Ting. Could this be something that was done by Admiral Liming? I don't know. It's been a long time since I saw Admiral Thunder take action. My god, this fruit must have developed to such an extent that it would cover the entire sky. In the office, Yim's eyes became colder. Behind him, streams of purple-black aura emanated. The surrounding space wherever it came into contact with the purple-black aura became distorted and chaotic. Su Ming was not to be outdone, and Conqueror's hockey pressed towards Yim without reservation. The two were less than 2 meters apart. Dorag looked at the two of them, swallowing as he felt the pressure around him almost becoming tangible. The 2 meters between the two men repelled each other's auras, and Dorag felt that the 2 meters were constantly stretching, gradually forming a huge abyss. Outside the house, thunder rolled like the end of the world. Inside the house, it was extremely quiet at this moment. Suddenly, Yim's eyes opened wide, and a faint purple halo burst out and went straight to Su Ming's eyebrows. The seemingly elusive purple halo gives people an irresistible feeling. Advertisement at the same time, a green lightning pattern lit up between Su Ming's eyebrows. The electric arcs around his body gathered together and tore a crack into space in front of Su Ming. The purple halo released by IM entered the crack and disappeared. Su Ming sneered at Yim. Lord Yim, there is no need for this little trick. Even if we want to take action, it's not now. This place is not far from the holy land of Marihoya. It's hard for me to guarantee that it won't be affected there. The threat in Su Ming's words was not concealed at all. Dorag, who was standing by, was sweating profusely. Here, not far from Marijoa? It would take most of the day to reach the holy land of Marijoa from the headquarters by warship at the fastest speed. Now Su Ming said that the fight between the two at the headquarters would affect Mary Joyce. Looking at the thunderclouds in the sky, could it be that these thunderclouds have spread to Marijoa? Doesn't that mean that Su Ming's fruit ability can cover almost half of the sea area? Is this still something humans can do? Snort. Yim snorted coldly, restrained his breath, turned around and walked out of the house. When he reached the door, Yim stopped, turned around and said something coldly. Su Ming, you are indeed extraordinary. Apart from that guy from 800 years ago, you are the first human who can fight me head-on. I will remember this name and enjoy your last moments. Yim left after saying something incoherent. Dorag let out a long sigh, only to find that his clothes had been soaked with cold sweat without him noticing. Is this guy the king of celestial dragons? His strength is indeed terrifying. Su Ming, are you sure you can handle her? Su Ming laughed at himself. Be sure. I can't really say. This guy is too mysterious. I don't know how many cards he has up his sleeve. But, Su Ming looked at the rubbing of the historical text the Dowager had brought over on the table. But soon, this guy's biggest secret will be revealed. Su Ming was about to flip through the seal to see what he had discovered in the new historical text. But at this moment, okay, the Den Den Mushi on Su Ming's desk suddenly rang. Boss, it's me, Enel. We have encountered the force that you asked me to investigate against our night bar. Chapter 298. The Knights of God. Hearing Enel's words on Den Den Mushi, Su Ming was stunned for a moment, but quickly reacted. Did you catch it? Okay, I'll be there now. Without waiting for Enel to send any more messages, Su Ming hung up the Den Den Mushi. Looking at Dorag, Su Ming asked, do you want to go together? Dorag nodded. Well, I also want to see which mysterious force is so bold as to target the night bar like this. Grand Line and New World connecting entrance. More than a dozen merchant ships flying the flags of the night bar were parked on the sea, with raging fires burning on the decks of the ships. Doflamingo, I didn't expect that a vicious pirate like you would fight to this extent for the night bar. That's not like you at all. An old man in a black robe with an exaggerated hairstyle and beard wiped the sword in his hand and teased Doflamingo. On the ruined deck opposite, Doflamingo looked a little embarrassed. The flamingo cape that he had been wearing had been thrown away somewhere. The lenses of the red sunglasses also had cracks. There were 4 somewhat broken puppets standing next to him. Doflamingo raised his hand to wipe the bloodline from the corner of his mouth and spat out the blood foam in his mouth. Old man, it's not your place to judge what kind of person I am. If you dare to touch the night bar, you will definitely die here today. Doflamingo used to have a deep obsession in his heart, hatred for the celestial dragons and hatred for the injustice of the world. He wants to take revenge on the celestial dragons and the entire world through his own means. But after following Su Ming, these mindsets have changed little by little. Now, not only have they regained their identity as celestial dragons, but they have also reached a height that was almost impossible to reach in the past. The night bar has become a kind of sustenance in his heart. Now that he saw someone trying to overthrow the night bar, he would never allow such a thing under any circumstances. Hearing Doflamingo's threat, the man laughed disdainfully. I'm going to die here. Ignorance. The biggest support of night bar is Su Ming. If I really meet him, I won't be afraid. It's still uncertain who will kill whom. It's a pity you won't be able to see it. Since you were once a celestial dragon, I'll give you a quick death. The jet black armament hockey is attached to the sword. The man raised the western long sword above his head, and the sword's sword intent made people's hair stand on end. Doflamingo snapped his fingers, and the 4 broken puppets around him moved in front of him with difficulty. The man sneered. Advertisement, it's meaningless. You can't block this sword. After I kill you, I will go kill your companion who ate the thunder fruit. He is also a tough guy. He has been entangled with our Knights of God for so long and has not been defeated yet. Doflamingo said nothing, but the determination to die was revealed in his eyes. The next moment, the red-haired old man held the long sword filled with sword intent in front of him, and then disappeared from the spot in an instant at an incredible speed. The pitch-black sword body turned into a black light. The 4 puppets standing in front of Doflamingo did not play any role in resisting, just as the old man said. In the blink of an eye, the 4 puppets made of special metals turned into a pile of scrap metal. A black spot of light began to appear in Doflamingo's eyes. The spot of light continued to grow larger, and he finally saw clearly that it was the tip of the rapier. The sword did not seem fast in his eyes, it could even be said to be extremely slow, but Doflamingo's body seemed to be out of control and he was unable to dodge it. He knew that it was not that the opponent's sword was slow, but rather that it was extremely fast. Doflamingo closed his eyes in despair. This sword will definitely kill me. In the moment before his death, he calmed down and accepted everything calmly. The first half of my life was a tragedy, and I have been living in hatred since I became an adult. If it weren't for Su Ming, he might have lived a miserable life because of the grudges of the previous generation and eventually destroyed himself. I'm sorry, boss, we couldn't catch this troublemaker. Doflamingo murmured something and prepared to die. However, Doflamingo closed his eyes and waited for a long time, but the pain he imagined did not appear. He tried to open his eyes, only to see the familiar man looking at him with a half smile. Isn't it too early to say your last words now? The person who came was Su Ming. Su Ming held the sword that was stabbing towards him with his right hand. The sword that he thought was unstoppable was taken by Su Ming with ease, without showing any effort at all. Old boss. Su Ming took out a bottle of life potion from his arms and threw it to Doflamingo. Drink this and go help Enel. Leave this old guy to me. Doflamingo had seen the life potion before and knew it was a good thing, but he didn't expect Su Ming to be so generous as to give it to him. Thank you, boss. Doflamingo quickly drank the life potion. Su Ming turned his head and looked at the red-haired old man whose sword he had caught. He narrowed his eyes and looked at him. Old man, you give me a very uncomfortable feeling. Advertisement, and this feels familiar. Su Ming tried to recall in his mind the last time he had felt this way. Suddenly, a gleam of light flashed in Su Ming's eyes, and a hint of mockery appeared on his face. No wonder. You are also a celestial dragon, old man. This feels right, exactly like those 5 elders. The man pulled the sword back from Su Ming's hand with force. Facing Su Ming's question, he did not deny it, but snorted coldly and said, I am the supreme commander of the Knights of God, Fergalando Green Ancient Saint. It is for God to clean up blasphemers like you. All the doubts in Su Ming's mind were resolved at once. Hey, I was wondering why a force suddenly appeared on the sea to target me, and it turns out to be the celestial dragons. Su Ming sneered, but couldn't help but sigh in his heart that this group of celestial dragons hid very well. I have been a celestial dragon for some years now, but I didn't even notice the existence of this group of guys. But on second thought, Su Ming also understood. Those fat, big-eared idiots in the Holy Land are just the outermost members of the celestial dragons. The 5 elders and the guy in front of him are actually the real celestial dragons. And these guys have been on guard against me from the very beginning, so it is impossible for me to find them easily. Su Ming shook his head. Knowing that it was the celestial dragons that were dealing with him, Su Ming lost interest in the guy in front of him. The smile on his face faded and his eyes turned cold. Old man, you should have stayed in hiding, this way you could have lived longer. But it's okay. Soon, the other celestial dragons will be there to accompany you. Now, you go ahead. As soon as Su Ming finished speaking, Ancient Saint Green wanted to speak again, but suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his chest. Looking down, he found that a wound deep enough to see the bone had appeared on his chest, and blood was constantly oozing out. And Su Ming had already come behind him and sheathed the knife. You, what did you do? Fear appeared in the eyes of the previously arrogant Ancient Saint Green. Just now he didn't even see how Su Ming came behind him. The unknown is the source of fear. Su Ming glanced at him with disdain. Nothing, just a cut on your chest. I have just completely mastered the power of the devil fruit, and I am still a little unskilled. I originally wanted to chop you in 2. It doesn't matter, I'll kill you with the next blow. Su Ming seemed to be talking about a trivial matter, and Lei Si slowly pulled out of the scabbard in his hand again. Chapter 299 Rescue. Yimu's secret. Seeing that Su Ming was about to unsheathe the knife in his hand again, Ancient Saint Green showed obvious panic. Su Ming's strength was indeed beyond his expectations. But soon, Ancient Saint Green also reacted. Hole, you are a fake celestial dragon, what qualifications do you have to attack me? A powerful aura burst out from Ancient Saint Green, and he tightened his grip on the western longsword in his hand again, an armament hockey completely covered his left arm. Su Ming sneered. Seeing that Ancient Saint Green was stabbing at him at a very fast speed with a western long sword, he still slowly pulled the sword out of the scabbard without hurrying. Seeing Su Ming being so arrogant, Ancient Saint Green showed a hint of excitement in his eyes and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Damn you, you really dare to look down on me, but this is fine. Just pay for this mistake with your life. Ancient Saint Green gripped the sword in his hand a little tighter. As long as he is in front of Su Ming, he will seize the opportunity at a moment's notice and unleash all his strength. One strike decides the outcome. Ancient Saint Green had already rushed to 1 meter in front of Su Ming, and the knives in Su Ming's hands were finally all unsheathed, but his whole body was still in a loose state. The joy in Ancient Saint Green's eyes could hardly be suppressed. Winner. After all, you are young and don't understand that battles are ever-changing and you need to be vigilant at all times. During the battle, no matter what time it is, you must keep your nerves tense. Make sure you can mobilize your full strength at any time. Because no one knows what kind of person the opponent is, whether he has any hidden cards, or whether he will suddenly explode. If Su Ming suddenly speeds up like he is doing now, the other party will definitely not be able to react in time. This is the gap caused by lack of combat experience. Ancient Saint Green mobilized all his strength, and his speed, which was already close to ultimate, doubled in an instant. The excitement that had been suppressed in my heart finally showed on my face. Successfully escaping the dilemma of death and having the hope of killing the opponent, the 2 extreme changes made Ancient Saint Green's expression a little out of control. Looking at Su Ming, who was still moving slowly, Ancient Saint Green shouted excitedly. Die. At this moment, a tiny arc of electricity flashed before my eyes. The lightning was so fast that even ancient Saint Green was not sure if it was his own hallucination. Until an arm holding a long sword appeared in front of him and flew in the air. Why is this arm so similar to mine? Ancient Saint Green, who felt that he had won the battle, suddenly had his brain freeze. However, as the pain hit him, his brain also responded. Ah! Blood gushed out of the wound like a broken faucet. Su Ming slowly wiped the thunder gift in his hand. Ancient Saint Green retreated back to the deck and stared at Su Ming with resentment in his eyes. Impossible, how can you be so much faster than me? Ancient Saint Green shouted very loudly, as if this could cover up the fear in his heart. Su Ming glanced at him calmly. Advertisement, nothing is impossible. Just like you guessed, what I ate was never thunderfruit, but I also have the power of thunderfruit. I just happened to develop a few new moves during this period. The sword that just cut off your arm was a combination of the fruit ability and the sword drawing slash. Su Ming stood in midair, looking up in the direction of the holy land of Marijoy, with a playful smile on his face. In fact, I just met with Yimu before I came here. I originally wanted to cut her with this knife, but... Su Ming only said half of his words and shook his head again. Although he has now fully mastered the power of the Thunder God fruit, I am still feels dangerous to him. Su Ming laughed at himself. I felt that even if I hit I am with this knife, that guy wouldn't be in any serious trouble, so I didn't do it. So I can only use you as a training ground. Now overall, this knife has a pretty good effect. Use the power of the fruit to stimulate nerves and cells, allowing the human body to burst out with speed and strength far beyond the limit in an instant, and then swing the sword in this state. Within 10 meters, this knife can barely be considered a sure hit. Su Ming said it lightly, but ancient Saint Green broke out in a cold sweat. Su Ming said it simply, but as a top expert, he knew it very clearly. The difficulty in using Su Ming's sword has never been in the swordsmanship, but in the control of the fruit and the top-notch observation hockey. He understood the principle, but if ancient Saint Green were asked to take the blow again, he still couldn't do it and would lose another arm. Just as Su Ming said, this knife will hit the target within 10 meters. Because at the moment of swinging the knife, Su Ming was the strongest in the world in terms of speed and strength, and no one could dodge or block him. Su Ming walked on moonwalk, step by step towards the ancient Saint Green. Ancient Saint Green's Adam's apple rolled nervously, and he stepped back unconsciously. It was not until he hit the railing that he realized he had nowhere to retreat. Looking again, Su Ming had already arrived on the deck, less than 20 meters away from him. Su Ming, you are also a celestial dragon and a member of the 5 elders. There is no need to kill each other here. Let me go, and I will serve you. As death approached, ancient Saint Green was no longer as calm as before. Su Ming burst out laughing when he heard what ancient Saint Green said. Huh? You're a celestial dragon, and you're really good at double standards. Wasn't I a blasphemer just now? Su Ming had no intention of stopping. He dragged Lacey in his hand, the tip of the knife drew a groove on the ground, and a pure murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Let's get going. Su Ming imitated the ancient Saint Green and held the blade in front of him. Then he thrust forward with his sword. Su Ming's appearance at this moment was exactly the same as the posture of ancient Saint Green when he was about to kill Doflamingo just now. The winner just now has now become the loser. Ancient Saint Green closed his eyes in despair. He didn't expect that he would die at Su Ming's hands like this. He did have a lot of cards that he hadn't used, but those cards were meaningless in the face of Su Ming's overwhelming strength. Using it would only add to the joke. Advertisement. Seeing Su Ming getting closer and closer, ancient Saint Green simply gave up resistance and murmured 3 words. The fisherman. Su Ming sneered when he heard these 3 words. God. A group of guys who stole the world are worthy of being called gods? Ancient Saint Green, who had already accepted his fate, suddenly had his pupils shrink. What did you say? Su Ming smiled but didn't intend to answer. Stop. Just as the blade was about to pierce into ancient Saint Green's chest, a loud shout suddenly came from the sea in the distance. Then I saw a figure rushing towards me. However, Su Ming had no intention of stopping. God avoid. The figure that was galloping towards them shouted angrily. A slash mixed with hockey hit the tip of Su Ming's sword. Su Ming glanced at the person coming. Shanks? Haha, should have thought of that earlier. As Su Ming spoke, he exerted force on his hands again, and Shanks's slash was instantly shattered. The blade directly pierced through the body of ancient Saint Green. At the same time, Shanks finally arrived. Su Ming drew out his long sword and took 2 steps back. Ancient Saint Green seemed to have been drained of all his strength by this blow, and his expression became listless. He slid down slowly along the railing and sat on the deck. Shanks stepped forward to support ancient Saint Green, with a complicated expression on his face, but he couldn't say a word. Ancient Saint Green looked at Shanks, who looked 70% similar to himself when he was young, and a look of confusion flashed in his eyes. Then he thought of something and laughed at himself. He opened his mouth and wanted to speak, but as soon as he opened his mouth he started coughing violently. Blood gushed out from the puncture wound in his chest. Shanks quickly covered the wound with his hands, but it was of no use. It's okay, I will save you. Shanks put the Green Saint's only remaining arm on his shoulders and helped him up. Su Ming hugged his shoulders and looked at Shanks quietly. I say, you don't think I'd let you take him away like that, do you? My goodness, he really treats himself as if he doesn't exist. Shanks looked at Su Ming with complicated eyes. The man in front of me is no match for me at all. I had used all my strength to dodge that knife just now, without holding back at all. But Su Ming broke it with just a slight force. If Su Ming didn't nod, he would be dreaming if he wanted to take ancient Saint Green away. Shanks gritted his teeth and finally spoke. I must take this person away. In exchange, I have a secret about Yim that I can give to you. Chapter 300. Time is running out. Snatch Shanks' words successfully aroused Su Ming's interest. Im's secret. This is what Su Ming cares about most now. It was inevitable that he and Yim had come to stand on opposite sides. Yim is undoubtedly a powerful enemy. Even now, Su Ming is still not sure that he can defeat that guy. Yim has always been very well hidden, and even the 5 elders don't know much about it. But now, Shanks actually said that he knew Im's secret. Su Ming looked at Shanks playfully and asked with a smile, why should I believe you? Shanks took a deep breath. Im's secret is related to the final island, Raftel. I didn't hear this secret from anyone, but I deduced it based on what Captain Roger said in the information circulating among celestial dragons. Su Ming glanced at the disabled ancient Saint Green and smacked his lips. This old guy has been completely destroyed by me. Even if he recovers, he won't pose any threat and is of no value to me anymore. If the secret Shanks told was true, it would be very important to Su Ming. After a brief hesitation, Su Ming nodded. Well, tell me everything you know. Shanks breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Su Ming agreed. If he hadn't agreed, I really don't know what to do. Ancient Saint Green was seriously injured, so Shanks didn't dare to waste time and spoke directly. When I was a trainee on Captain Roger's ship, I heard the captain say that there was a strange tree on Raftel. Once a person with special abilities gets close to the tree, they will feel that the power of the devil fruit in their body will be out of control. And the crew members who have been to Raftel said that the final island does not have the treasure they imagined, but is instead full of corpses. But it's not the remains of a human being, but a creature that has never been seen before. The corpses are gathered around the big tree. Captain Roger and his crew didn't know what was going on at the time. This is something that is not even recorded or explained in the historical texts. Su Ming suddenly interrupted Shanks. What does this have to do with Yimu? Shanks glanced at Su Ming and continued, although you were also crowned as a celestial dragon, there are some things they must not have told you. There has always been a legend among celestial dragons that there were 20 kings who drove the demons to victory. This legend is incomplete, but I have deduced something from the fragments. Combined with the fact that celestial dragons basically don't eat devil fruit, I came up with a guess. There must have been a huge battle on Raftel, and it was that battle that determined the ownership of this world. Besides, there is a high possibility that Yimu can control the demon fruit power, just like the legend says. The ancestors of celestial dragons recorded these things in a cryptic way. Advertisement. But this is mostly speculation, and there are many unreasonable places. As for whether to believe it or not, it's up to you. Su Ming frowned again after hearing what Shanks said. Shanks didn't bother Su Ming and set up the green ancient saint. I have to go. I hope it won't be an enemy later. Su Ming ignored Shanks and waved casually, indicating that he could leave. After Shanks left, Su Ming continued to ponder Shanks' words in his head. Control demon fruit power? Or control the devil fruit? Su Ming had already mostly believed this conclusion when Shanks said it. After all, he had seen with his own eyes how Vegapunk transformed a devil fruit into a monster. The monsters transformed from devil fruit all looked unconscious. If I could control these demons, then everything would make sense. However, this is not entirely reasonable. If I could really control the devil fruit, the world would have been unified long ago. How could the Revolutionary Army and pirates still exist? After thinking for a long time, Su Ming still couldn't figure out what was going on. But one thing is certain, and devil fruit must have a close relationship. Controlling the devil fruit and the origin of the devil fruit are very telling. There's still some news missing. Su Ming sighed in his heart. The secrets of a guy who has ruled the world for nearly 1,000 years cannot be unearthed in a short time. Su Ming simply kept this matter in mind and at the same time was on guard against devil fruit. There are quite a few demon fruit powers around me. If I can really control the devil fruit, and then use these people to threaten me, that would be troublesome. We have to find a way to solve this hidden danger in advance. After much thought, if we want to solve this problem, we still have to put our hope on Vegapunk. In the distance, on the wrecked ship, Doflamingo, who drank the life potion, became full of energy again, not looking like he had been injured at all. Joining forces with Enel, the two of them working together to deal with a member of the Knights of God was simply bullying. Especially after the Knights discovered that ancient Saint Green was stabbed in the chest by Su Ming, he had basically lost the desire to fight. Su Ming stepped on the ground with his toes and came to the man in an instant. Before the man could react, he used his palm as a knife and cut off his head in an instant. The huge head flew into the air. Ming and Enel, who were bullying others, were stunned. Enel's eyes twitched, and he muttered in dissatisfaction, "Boss, you seem to be trying to steal our kills. We're having a great time." Doflamingo also laughed dryly twice. Advertisement. Although he couldn't beat the ancient Saint Green, he was more than capable of bullying this ordinary member. Just when he was about to return the humiliation he had suffered from the old man to this guy, Su Ming solved it in one go. It's a bit uncomfortable. Su Ming didn't bother to pay attention to the two people's resentful looks and looked at the ships around him that had been destroyed. Send someone over to count the losses. The night bar should reduce its influence as much as possible during this period. Core elite members are on standby at all times. Seeing Su Ming's serious expression, the two also knew the seriousness of the matter and did not dare to neglect and quickly replied, "Yes, boss, I will explain it when I get back." The core elite members scattered all over the world are gathering towards Grand Line. Su Ming nodded. "I'll leave this to you. I have other important things to do." Su Ming suddenly felt that time was running out. "I haven't read the historical text that Dorag brought over yet. Now there is another devil fruit issue that needs to be resolved." Su Ming, who had been slacking off, had to work harder. All nations, Ace, Blackbeard, and Luffy all looked miserable and were breathing heavily. Opposite the three of them, Charlotte Linlin had already fallen to the ground. The body of the so-called steel balloon has now become tattered. Burns, bruises, and gaping holes that looked like they had been eaten away. "It seems like I'm breathing out more than I'm breathing in. This is going to make me unfit." Luffy sat down on the ground and wiped his face. "Phew. The fight is finally over. This old woman is really tenacious." Ace looked around vigilantly. "This is Wan Guo, Big Mom's territory. Members of Big Mom's pirates may arrive at any time." However, at this moment, Blackbeard Teach, who was lowering his head, showed an expression of success on his face. "Haha, yes, this guy is indeed tough enough. If we hadn't joined forces, I really wouldn't have been able to beat him, but now." As he said that, Blackbeard suddenly exploded again and rushed directly towards Charlotte Linlin, who was lying on the ground. "Haha, Ace, Straw Hat Boy, thank you, Dark Cave Road." The inside story. Blackbeard released 2 streams of black energy in succession, isolating Ace and Luffy. As for himself, he rushed towards Charlotte Linlin at the fastest speed. The greed in his eyes could no longer be concealed. "The soul fruit is mine."